Welcome back to Countdown to Green on TNT. Carl Edwards, driver of the 99, has been recognized nationally for his fitness, not on a magazine cover this time, by the First Lady, Michelle Obama, who has named Edwards as one of the members of the President's Council on Fitness, Sports, and Nutrition. A huge honor, the mission to raise awareness of healthy lifestyles for kids. Edwards starts 21st today. That should factor into the decision when you play the $1 Million Fan Challenge. Go to NASCAR.com. Don't miss this opportunity. Set your top 10 finishers in today's race. You can even change your lineup during the race up to lap 75. A chance for you to win a cool $1 million. Track position is so key here at Loudon, and so is your stall selection along pit road. That's where we check in with our expert reporters. For more on Juan Pablo Montoya, as well as the pit stalls he'll be covering, we're joined by Matt Yoakum. Hi, Matt.
Hey, Lindsay, and Juan Pablo should be fast today, but Jeff Gordon should be just as fast. Now, keep an eye on Gordon, because instead of incoming paybacks that he's keeping an eye on, he's looking for bonus points, looking for a win, something he hasn't done here at New Hampshire since 1998, something he hasn't done on the circuit in over a year and a half. His car's solid in practice, and he shuffled around in the points last week, moved up 2 spots to 5th. 24 should be pretty strong here today at New Hampshire. Phil Parsons?
Matt, the hottest guy on the circuit right now is Casey Kane, driver of this number 9 Budweiser car. He has the best average finish over the last 2 weeks. I talked to his crew chief, Kenny Francis, this morning. He said track position is key here. We have it now. We're on the outside of the front row, but we have to keep it. We may do some 2 tire stops later in the race, and we will talk to Casey Kane a little bit later in the pre-race show. Now to Ralph Shaheen.
Phil, you know, Kurt Busch has 3 wins here. In fact, he swept both races here in 2004. But today, he's going to run a setup underneath the number 2 that he has never used here before, nor has crew chief Steve Addington. So they're a little concerned about exactly what they're going to get when the green flag falls here in a little while, Marty.
Well, Ralph, one of the cars I'll be watching on pit road today will be Jimmy Johnson. That will be very tempting for the 48 team to come here and completely experiment with chassis setup. After all, this will be the first race in the 2010 chase. Talked to Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus about that, and they told me it's more of a hybrid setup. 50% experimental, 50% going with what they know will work. And guess what? That hybrid setup has worked for this race team. Jimmy, one of the fastest cars in yesterday's practice, and coming up in a little bit, we'll talk to Jimmy Johnson and find out exactly how fast this 48 is. Lindsay?
Thanks, Marty. Denny Hamlin, driver of the 11 FedEx Toyota, has become very familiar with victory lane. He was the runner-up at this race last fall, and this season leads all drivers with 5 wins, all in the last 11 races.
I don't believe it. You thought we were going to win. We won.
Denny Hamlin has won the Texas Motor Speedway.
Texas, baby.
Denny Hamlin able to tame this grand old racetrack here tonight.
Awesome job. Checker flag. Caution's out. Come get the checker.
Career win number 20 for Hamlin comes in his 4th at Pocono. And the domination continues today. Win number 5 for Denny Hamlin.
All we do is win, baby.
Denny Hamlin joins us now. You've been on such a roll. I know you struggled last week. You ended up finishing 34th, but things got so bad at one point, the hood was up against your windshield. How hard is that to drive when that's the case?
Pretty tough. You really got to rely on on memory, track memory, and that's all I could really do. I had, you know, a very, very small, bit of hole right at the very bottom that I could see a little bit, but as soon as we had elevation changes, I really couldn't see anything.
You know, Denny, you told me a few weeks ago, to me, one of the most heartwarming motivational stories I think that I've been told. You know, you've been on the circuit for a while. You've won your 1 or 2 races a year. You've made the chase every year. But at Pocono last August, something happened to your life, and you found out something about you and your race car that day.
Yeah, I mean, you never know what you've got left in the tank until your back's up against the wall and you've been put in a bad spot. And with the death of my grandmother that Friday before that weekend, she was my biggest fan, and for me to, I just felt like I had to win that weekend. I had to win no matter what, and I think we restarted 19th with like 19 to go, and just somehow managed to get a race win. So it's when you find that little bit extra speed and gut within you, I think I found out from that point on that there's something deep down inside I can dig and get out.
Hey, you know, last year, and we talked about it on the radio show on PRN, you guys came on strong the last 10 races. Y'all had a shot at beating that 48. You started out this year, and the first 6 or 7 races, you guys were there, but you weren't there. And I'm going to have to eat a little crow because you went in and you had knee surgery. And I said, Denny's not beating them with 2 legs. What makes you think he's going to beat them with 1 leg? You have kicked their butt in a 1-legged butt kicking competition right now. I mean, what happened? What happened? Sorry, that's a Southern saying.
Spoken like Kyle Petty. I love it.
Saying. But that's a Southern saying. So how, you know, what has that done? I mean, has that motivation or that surgery give you that little bit more motivation?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, we always, whenever anything negative in the media is put out about us or anything like that, we'll poster it. We'll put it in the hauler and use it as motivation. You know, we usually use the beginning of the year predictions when it's you know, who will miss it, and you know, our names mentioned in. You're gonna miss it, gonna miss it, gonna miss it. We post it right up, and and we use it as motivation. And the knee stuff is no different. You know, I really relied on my team to pick me up over those last over the few weeks right afterwards. And since then, our team's just been on fire.
You know, Denny, you have 2 teammates, and certainly Joey Logano's in his sophomore season, and we know that he's going to be up there winning races and bidding for championship in the future. I've got to believe one reason Joe Gibbs hired Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin is the desire to win. I know you guys had the on-track incident in the All-Star race, a race that pays no points, a race that doesn't make a difference in the grand scheme of things. You guys actually help each other and you drive each other, though, it appears to me.
You know, it's no different than the 24 and the 48. When you have a competitor like Kyle and myself on the same team, and Joey, by the way, is going to be up front very, very soon. It's motivation. We knew right from the very first test when he was still with Hendrick Motorsports and they let him come over and test Atlanta with the Gibbs cars. We had our first COT test in Atlanta. He got in the race car top of the chart. I was top of the chart until he got there. He showed up fastest. I went back out and I topped over that. So we kept going back and forth, and that's what it takes to keep the fire in your stomach.
Have you guys ever gone back and readdressed that situation, or is it pretty much done and smooth?
No, it is done. I mean, we debriefed for a good hour yesterday just talking about our race cars, and you know, he enticed me to change everything on my race car, so we'll see how it turns out.
Before we let you go,
There may be
Denny,
a method to his madness.
Yeah.
before we let you go, you had an opportunity to do a very special event, help a lot of people up in Boston. What was that about?
Yeah, it was a special thing. I've got to do a lot of different things, charitable things with FedEx, but this one in particular, Boston, Massachusetts, we know has had some floods over the last year or so, so we donated a disaster relief vehicle just in case something like that ever does happen again. It'll provide food and water for those who need it.
All right, Denny Hamlin, thank you so much.
you.
Good luck with those changes that Kyle Busch told you about. Have a good race today. Well, the fans are filing in here to New Hampshire Motor Speedway. This is certainly going to be a much widely watched race here today at this track where they have been racing, as we told you, since 1990. More action when we return.
You're watching Countdown to Green on TNT.
We really went through a lot of things that weren't going our way that whole day. And then putting down a left rear tire, spun out trying to get the pit road to left rear tire flat. That drew to caution. You know, they'll make our pit stop, and that's what really put us on a different strategy than everybody else. Towards the end of the race was just trying to run consistent laps. He's saying the rain's coming. I only had a few more laps in the tank.
Save fuel for me. You got to save fuel. We're good for about 3 to 5 laps under green, so we go quite a few, okay? Just save fuel. Roll out, shut it off, shut all your fans off.
I never want to race by, you know, rain shortened or anything like that, but I'll take it.
Mother Nature helped, but crew chief Greg Zipadelli had a lot to do with Joey Logano's win last year. Now we move to a legendary crew chief who won more championships than any other. Dale Inman was instrumental to Richard Petty's success as one of the greatest drivers of all time. He is Petty's cousin and stood beside him in victory lane for all but 2 of his 200 career wins. Wally Dallenbach tells the story of one of the best leaders this sport has ever seen.
Where the A-frame is, this is where it really all started for you guys.
Yeah, the A-roof right here, it was built, and it wasn't built for the garage. It was kind of for an old reefer shed that that belonged to the farm here, you know what I mean? And Lee made it into a race shop in about 1952. It's a pretty big facility, but it's not the modern structure that you see on all the shops now and everything. But we still love it here.
But it worked.
It worked. It worked for a long time.
Coming back to Petty Enterprises brings back memories for me. I was their driver in 1994. Even then, I definitely appreciated the incredible history that was made in this garage. For Richard Petty and Dale Inman, it was family first, right from the start.
Did you guys grow up together? I mean, what age did you guys really start hanging out as kids?
Probably, we probably laid in a crib together. His mother and my mother were first cousins, and I can't remember life without Richard Petty, you know what I mean?
So, I mean, you guys were basically, you could say it's cousins, but you really grew up as brothers.
Exactly, yeah, for sure.
Lee Petty was a NASCAR pioneer and one of the sport's first champions. Richard, brother Maurice, and cousin Dale worked on Lee's cars as teenagers. When Richard took his turn behind the wheel, Dale stayed on the sidelines and tuned their engines.
Did you ever have a desire to drive, and if you did you give it a shot?
No, and I'm being honest with you. I just didn't see tearing up somebody's equipment. You understand what I'm saying? I'm probably a better driver than Richard, but I was probably a little bit scared. Probably Lee would have let me tried it if I'd have wanted to, you know, but I was always pretty well content to work on the race cars and make them better.
Here's the winner now. Going into victory lane, Richard Petty, a very popular driver.
I had to change the right front tire, and I've even jacked the car, I've gassed the car. I think I've done it all, but, and then as we got more people, it just became, they had to be a leadership role, and somewhere I picked that up. In 1967, we had such a great season. Out of the 48 races, you know the story, Richard won 27 of them, 10 in a row, and we had Maurice in the engine room and 6 employees. If you want to call it fun, I guess, but we were so busy, Wally, I'm not sure we had time to think about what we were doing, you know, it just, man, you know, there's a race here in 3 days, and we got this one race car. We got to get it ready.
Petty, the great Southern stock car driver, coming around now will take the checkered flag, an unprecedented third Daytona 500 triumph, making him a man among men in stock car racing, and now for the flag in his 120th career victory.
So it'll be Richard Petty, car number 43, 71 Plymouth, winning for the 3rd time here at Daytona.
You knew Richard was a good driver. What were your strengths? Where did you feel that was your strength on this race team?
I think before we had all the computers and knowing where everybody was at and where they were running and all that, I mean, I think I kept up with who we had to beat and what their weaknesses were and where we would beat them and what time of the race we would beat them, and from that standpoint, and maybe adjusting to situations that turned up in the race, you know. So I don't want to toot my whistle, but you know, me and Richard Maurice and the people we had here, we surrounded ourselves with good, dedicated people here.
It's real important, a driver-crew chief relationship, as far as what he's saying the car's doing and what you need to change. Were you guys that close where it was just automatic?
He tells it like that, yeah. He says we got to thinking. He said it was scary sometimes how close we thought about a situation and how close we came out with the same answer.
Petty Enterprises has closed its doors, but what happened here will never be forgotten. And even though the sport passed this place by, racing history will always remember just what Dale Inman engineered here.
In my book, you're definitely a future Hall of Famer. When you see where this sport has gone, can you believe it?
There was years where they'd be small changes, and then there would be years where they'd just be leaps and bounds, you know what I mean? And of course, we signed with STP in 1972, and for the whole year it was $250,000, and that probably wouldn't even buy the pit box now, you know what I mean? And it's amazing when I go to the racetrack and they can change the air pressure 0.2 of a pound of air. We didn't have a gauge that would read within 2 or 3 pounds of each other, and I know you've been through some of those days. I still love going to the races. I mean, that's my passion.
Kyle Petty, you grew up obviously around both of those men. What was the difference of their personalities?
that's the trick. There was no difference. They were the same person. And that was, you know, where Richard would, where the King would start a sentence, Dale would finish it. Dale would start a thought, the King would finish it. And that clicked for so many years. Like he said, their parents, everybody was so close. They were just naturally close.
Larry, what did you learn from Dale Inman?
Well, there's no question. When you look at Dale Inman, and what I learned from him was the fact that hard work and dedication will pay dividends. We can talk about Richard Petty's 7 championship. We could talk about Dale Earnhardt. Not to dilute their 7 championships. That man has 8 championships. And I know this year, Lindsey, we put Bill France Sr., Bill France Jr., and 3 very notable drivers in the Hall of Fame, and rightly so. But we start putting crew chiefs and great mechanics in that Hall of Fame, that's the man that needs to go into the NASCAR Hall of Fame, no question.
Hey, Dale Inman wasn't a better driver than your father.
Might have been. Those guys, but
they laid a crib together?
Let me say this. Those guys should go in the Hall of Fame. Dale Inman and Leonard Wood and guys like that, before a lot of these drivers go in the Hall of Fame. I'm going to say that.
Fair point. All right, well, Kyle Petty, I think that you mailed in this question. It's because it's one of your favorite topics. The question is, how do you think Danica Patrick looked yesterday? That's thanks to a race buddy, Danica Patrick.
She looked great. She just didn't run that good.
I meant on the racetrack, gentlemen, on the racetrack. Get your minds out of the gutter. Danica Patrick returned to NASCAR Nationwide Series racing in the New England 200. It was a struggle after a wreck on lap 7. She finished 30th. Nationwide Series career laps leader Kyle Busch ended up taking home the checkered flag. Fans, keep up with all your favorite drivers and how they look by checking out the Nationwide Insurance on Your Side race review only on NASCARNationwideSeries.com. Stay with us. We will be back after the race. Hey, a cool tradition here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Fans that park in the RV lots carry their coolers in on wagons. They do that. They bring all their stuff in, and then they've got so much trust in this fan base that they just lean them up against the racetrack fence. Pretty cool, huh? Welcome back to Loudon, New Hampshire, where the 17th race of the season is about to get underway. Are you done texting yet?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, thank you.
I was
Jeff Burton. Tweeting, sorry, not texting.
Yes.
All right. Jeff Burton has had a terrific weekend here. He's also won at New Hampshire Motor Speedway 4 times, more than any other driver. He gave me a spin around the track to show me just how it's done. Woohoo!
So they say that this, obviously it's a speedway, but they say that it races like a short track. Why?
This ain't no speedway. This track does not have a lot of grip. It looks wide, and it is wide, but if you really pay attention to the groove, then you can see it here. Look how much flatter it is in the second groove. It's just really hard to get the car to do everything you need it to do. It has the size of a speedway, but has the grip of a short track.
So can you explain this lap as you're going through it?
Yeah. Well, this corner, you can't see the corner because of pit wall.
Yep.
So you look for the braking zone at the numbers. Now you can see the corner. You're looking to enter a little high but get to the bottom, and then you want to use a little racetrack. Just let the car come up just a little bit, because that helps your exit. Now you can make a little straighter line, and you can throttle up sooner. Some of the hard part about this racetrack is the visibility of being able to see where you want to be. You can't see pit road until you get right. Here is the first time you can see the pit road line.
Almost too late.
And there's the pit road line right there.
Oh, yeah.
35. I mean, that's why people say, well, why do people speed on pit road? That's why. It's hard. You can't just muscle your way around this racetrack. You have to be precise. You have to be smooth, but you have to be fast.
You guys have had very, very good runs. We haven't been able to get that win yet. How do you assess your season so far?
The last 3 months, we've run great, and things have happened to us. And I don't lose sleep over that. I lose sleep over the things that we haven't been able to capitalize on.
Funny story, we took one lap around that track. My producer, Bert Bondi, knocks on the window and says, hey, Jeff, don't worry about going top speed if you need to. I thought Jeff was going to ring Bert Bondi a new neck, but they were all good because Jeff is such a good guy. This track has changed a lot since 2000. That was the last time when Burton won. Our expert, Larry McReynolds, won here in July of 1996. He did so with Ernie Irvin. He's standing by at our TNT off-track race car, or Torque, presented by Toyota. Larry, what are your keys to this race?
Well, yeah, Lindsey, when you think about this track, it has the speeds of intermediate super speedway, but the handling characteristics of a flat short track. You have to keep your car rolling through the middle of the corner. Keep it turning all day long. But the real key is to get off the corner, get off the exit to carry you down those long 1,500-foot straightaways. The other thing, you might have to be a gambler. You might have to roll the dice here a little bit today. It's a little bit of a short race, 301 laps. Late in the race, what you're going to have to weigh out, what you might have to gamble. Do I want to come to pit road, change 4 tires, leave my left side zone, go with 2 if I've got enough fuel? Maybe just stay out and keep that track position. The other thing, keep your cool. Keep your emotions in check. This is a short track. There's going to be a little beating and banging. Driver, keep you cool. But if you want to show your emotions after the race, Larry Mack will be right there with you.
Larry Mack, thank you very much. So, Kyle Petty, what would your strategy be today for getting around this racetrack?
You know, Jeff Burton's explanation to you can't muscle this racetrack. You have to really let the racetrack come to you. You got to let the car roll in. You got to let it roll through the center. Jeff went up here when we ran restrictor plates here one time, which is phenomenal. It's all about momentum, and you can't see where you need to go. So I think for me, as a driver, I've got to hit my marks and count on that pit crew, just as Larry said, hitting their marks. You can't make any mistakes because track position is everything here.
All right, well, this is the only track where you will see lobsters just about as prevalent as corn dogs. Kyle Petty and his sidekick, Rutledge Wood, got down and dirty with how those lobsters are caught in this week's Ponytail Express.
Look at that. Oh, they're huge. No, I don't want to hold it. Jeez Louise. Oh, he's angry. Oh, God, the boat's really starting to pitch. Oh, real good. Oh, God, it's getting worse. Oh, no.
We don't want to puke into the bucket.
Dun, 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 dun. Oh, look at the steam, man. Put him right there. Yeah. That's good, dude. Is that good? That's really good.
So far this weekend, we know that you've gotten into a canoeing accident. Yes. I cannot believe you walked away from there without a lobster hanging off your nose. What's up with you?
Well, you'll see the lobster hanging from various parts of our body whenever you see the.
You got to go to NASCAR. Too much information.
You got to go to NASCAR.com to see the Ponytail Express.
To see the entire Ponytail Express, log on to NASCAR.com. Help me out, someone. Speaking of NASCAR.com, that's where you can catch the Miss Sprint Cup live chat. This week, she's going to be joined by driver of the 33 car, Clinton Boyer, who won here from the pole back in 2007. That's NASCAR.com this Friday, July 2nd at 11:45.
You're watching Countdown to Green on TNT.
Welcome back to New Hampshire. Drivers will go 301 laps today. Kurt Busch won this race 3 times, twice in 2004. He starts 3rd. His brother, meanwhile, Kyle Busch, has 1 win here, starts a bit more in the back at 22nd. Well, guys, right now we want to take a look at the NASCAR Sprint Cup points standings. Currently, Kevin Harvick continues to lead. Nobody fell out of the top 12 last week, but Carl Edwards did lose 2 spots because of a 29th place finish at Sonoma. Dale Earnhardt Jr., meanwhile, can be hopeful. He is just on the outside looking in 13th, just 57 points out of that top 12. Casey Kane has moved up rapidly. At 18th, he's gained 5 spots in the last 2 races. He starts 2nd today, the most successful Ford driver at this time. Jimmy Johnson, driver of the 48, certainly has a lot on his plate, including some extra confidence heading into today's race. He won for the first time on a road course in Sonoma. He also won a lot of money this week to help out in the community, and he could get the call at any moment that his wife is about to have the couple's first child. Standing by with Jimmy Johnson is our Ralph Shaheen. Hi, Ralph.
Hey, Lindsay. Well, that's a crazy week, isn't it? You got a lot of stuff going on in your world, and you just won the Pepsi Refresh program. You get $100,000 to donate to your charity. So where's it going?
It's going to go to Be the Match and to try to help find recipients and donors for people with leukemia and stuff like that. So there's a lot of associated costs to go with that, and I can't thank Pepsi enough for their great involvement and the fans for voting up against Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Jeff Gordon in a fan voting process, and we won, so that was really cool. And Be the Match is really going to appreciate that $100,000.
And you won last week on the road course, and you've won here. You've swept here. Can you start off another sweep today? Is your car good enough?
I think it is. Track position is going to be so important. There's so little available grip on this track. The lead car, even though we hate to hear it and talk about it, but there is an aero disadvantage being further back. And through that lead car, you've got a couple tenths on everyone, and everyone behind that's got to fight through it. So if we can keep track position, I think we've got a great shot with the Slows Impala.
All right, good luck to you today, Jimmy. Marty Snyder, he's going to roll off 10th today.
Well, riding in the truck with his teammate Jeff Gordon, who was so close to winning here last year, finished second in this race. Is the car as good this year?
The car's pretty good. We didn't qualify too well, so we got some work to do. But I think that at the beginning of the run, I think we're actually a little bit better than we were here last year. And if we can get track position, I think we've got an awesome shot at it. And that's what we've been focused on all weekend long. And we've made some big improvements to the car in that second practice. So pretty excited about our day with the DuPont Chevy.
You and I talked earlier this week, and you said last week was not your favorite week at the racetrack. So, A, how do you manage that when you come back to the racetrack the next weekend? And then, B, do you race differently today, especially around those guys you had problems with last week?
Well, you got to be smart and do what you can to try to win the race. And, that's what we're focused on. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I can't control that. I'm gonna just try to race hard and race smart and see what happens.
All right, Jeff and I try not to fall off this truck. We did a good job, didn't we, Jeff? Matt?
Marty, it's a combo platter for Martin Truex Jr., the Napa guy today. First, Martin, how do you approach the Gordon situation, and also, more importantly, trying to get some bonus points and get a win as we get ever closer to the chase?
Well, after watching the highlights of the race last weekend, I realized that it wasn't personal, so that helps a little bit. But we need to go out here and have a good run with our Napa Toyota. We've had a little trouble on Friday with qualifying, and the guys changed a lot of stuff in the car, and we had a lot of speed yesterday. So we got a lot of work to do to get up towards the front, and we got a good car, and I think we can do it. So just work hard all day long, and hopefully be around in one piece at the end of this thing.
The Magic Mile special for the Truex family. His brother, his father have won here. Martin's won here not only in a nationwide, but also in the old Busch North Series. Looking for a cup win today. Lindsay?
Thanks, Matt. Kyle Petty, does that sound like he doesn't have a chip on his shoulder any longer, or what?
That sounds like he has not forgotten.
He's an elephant.
Yes.
What do you think? I mean, we talked about at the beginning of the show, we don't think that it's going to happen here today, but hearing those comments, it could be interesting to watch.
Well, I even want to follow up on something that Wally said. It may not be a factor where you just turn right and wreck a guy. It may be where you just happen not to give him any room. You may not be running near as good as he's running, and he may be up there bidding for the win, but you may not give him no room whatsoever. In fact, you may go out of your way to make sure that he doesn't win the race, even without reckoning.
Might be a quiet maneuver. All right, well, speaking of drivers out there to watch, Tony Stewart is 10th in points right now. He always heats up in the summer. Stewart, oh, look, this is the different Smoke, Smokey the Bear. Look at that guy. There's our Smoke, Tony Stewart. He tested in Milwaukee to prepare for this track. Will try to get back on track this afternoon here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway.
You're watching Countdown to Green on TNT.
Welcome back to Countdown to Green on TNT. We told you before about the $1 Million Fan Challenge, a unique opportunity to choose your top 10 finishers on NASCAR.com. Kyle Petty, who are your top 3?
I picked Jeff Burton. That's all I got.
Okay, Larry?
I'm going to say Jeff Burton, Jimmy Johnson, Casey Kamen. Here's the deal about the $1 Million Challenge. They're getting close. At Michigan, they had 10 of 10.
Yep.
At Infineon, 9 of 10. Just got to get them in the right order. They're getting close.
No, they just got big insight for both of you. Also, you do it by going on NASCAR.com. There's a huge payoff. You can change that lineup up to 75 laps in. If you guess correctly, you could win a cool $1 million. Well, drivers are getting ready. Let's take another check downstairs with our pit reporter, Phil Parsons, who's standing by with Casey Kane.
Casey Kane, you've picked up 5-point positions in the last 2 races. Do you feel like now this is your first full year in the Ford that you guys are where you need to be?
Well, I think we're getting closer. I think the whole switch to working with the Roush guys and getting the Roush 8's engine took a little bit of time to figure out. In the last few weeks, we've been pretty strong. Even a little before that, we just had some tough breaks. But, yeah, I think we're in a good position right now with our Budweiser team. And the guys are stepping up. They're doing a nice job. And hopefully we can run strong again today and get some more points.
This race has never been won from the front row in 17 previous runnings. Can you change that?
Well, I'd like to. I think Montoya should be pretty decent, too. He was fast during practice. And so hopefully the front row can get one today. Who knows? It'll be a good race. It's going to be exciting.
Good luck, Casey.
Thank you.
Casey, we'll start from the outside of the front row. Lindsay.
Thank you, Phil. How impressive is it to you guys knowing that he is leaving his team going to Hendrick next year, that his team is still able to stay consistent now?
It's impressive because a lot of guys wouldn't be that way. At the same time, if I'm paying a guy as an owner to drive my race car, by God, he better be giving me 100% week in and week out. I think Casey is incredibly professional, and I think Richard Petty Motorsports has acted accordingly and been very professional. Sometimes you see guys, when they're leaving, they'll start taking the good stuff away from that guy and spreading out to the rest of the team. They focused on Casey.
And I'm impressed with Kenny Francis and that team because Casey Kane, he, for the most part, he knows what his future's about. The 9-team Kenny Francis, they're not sure. They don't know the status on Budweiser or anything going over there on right now.
Kenny, in fact, told me this morning he doesn't know. He's got several different options, doesn't know if he will be with Casey next year when he makes his move. Okay, we're almost out of time. What are your predictions? Both of you, I think, said Jeff Burton. You guys have to pick different drivers.
No, I went with Jeff Burton early in the week. Somebody asked me on Twitter, who are you going with? I went with Jeff Burton because these guys have been so close so many times this year, only to have something in the last 10 or 15 laps take them out. If they can get their track position, he can keep that track position. And I think that team, the Childress organization, is right there at that place.
It's been 10 years since he won here. I know he's done it more than anyone else. You, Larry?
Yeah, I mean, I have to base it off the 2 practice sessions yesterday. Yeah, they qualified 10th, but they were the fastest in both practice, fastest short runs, fastest long runs. Guess what? The 48 team, I think they're back.
The 48. Okay, there you go. I'm going to go with the 14. I think Tony Stewart is going to get the win because he seems sad. He's been acting like somebody took his cat. I think he's going to get back on track today. All right, we are moments from firing the engines. When we come back, we will head trackside for the start of pre-race ceremonies at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, where the stakes have been raised even higher because this race begins the push to the playoffs. There's Martin Truex Jr. Could Welcome back to NASCAR on TNT from New Hampshire Motor Speedway. 301 laps, 318 miles. Right now, we're trackside for pre-race ceremony.
Standing and welcome the New Hampshire National Guard All Services Color Guard as they present our nation's colors. And please welcome from Motor Racing Outreach, Steve Keller, as he offers today's invocation.
Please pray with me. Father, we thank you for what so far has been a beautiful day. And God, we thank you that when we look at your word, we see clearly that you love us and you have us. And so, Father, I pray for these drivers, these crews, these fans today, that you would protect them. Father, with our military around the world and present here with us today, God, I ask you to bless them and keep them. And Father, just for a great day of racing, we give you thanks in Christ's name. Amen.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Foghat as they perform our national anthem.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. The ramparts we watched were so gallantly stood, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear
Foghat with an interesting rendition of our national anthem. They have been racing at New Hampshire for 20 years. They'll start again when we come back.
Drama this season.
It's not cool to intentionally wreck somebody at 195 mile an hour.
And then plain simple just wrecked us. So.
Somebody better keep me away from Denny. It was on.
Cook it, and he drove in the back of me so hard, but I made sure he wasn't going to win the race after that.
Not his fault, you know, his wife wears a fire suit in the family, tells him what to do, so.
It's right on the edge of making it personal.
I don't talk to AJ hardly ever. I doubt I'm going to talk to him about this.
Lost amidst the emotional theater, a four-time champion is quietly moved behind the points leader. Like a true competitor, Jimmy Johnson has responded to the gauntlet thrown down by the other 42, finding himself better positioned for the postseason than the last 3 years. With 10 to go until the chase, he and his challengers face a puzzling oval at Loudon that looks like a speedway, but races like a short track. With long straightaways and short fuses, this place could create some explosive racing. Will the drivers be distracted by rivalry and retaliation?
It's all right. What comes around goes around. We'll get him.
Or remain focused on the challenge at hand? The story unfolds on the TNT Summer Series from New Hampshire.
Welcome back to New Hampshire Motor Speedway, where 10 different drivers have won the last 10 races. Our expert, Larry McReynolds, has been to victory lane here. Larry.
And the last caution flag, average lap 272, less than 30 laps to go, Lindsay.
Thank you, Larry. It was 1996 that Larry went to victory lane with his driver, Ernie Irvin. Drivers getting ready to fire up their engines today. In a moment, we're going to get the racing action. 301 laps. Let's send it downstairs right now for the command to start the engines.
Now, please welcome today's Grand Marshals, the Dingaman family. Representing the 2009 Lenox Extra Mile Hero, Pete Dingaman, as they deliver the most famous words in motorsport.
Gentlemen, start your engine!
When we come back, we'll see who has what it takes at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Will there be payback? That's the question of the day. When we return, we'll go racing. It's anyone's guess who wins.
Welcome, race fans, to NASCAR Sprint Cup Series racing from New Hampshire, presented by Captain Morgan. I'm Marty Snyder with Captain Morgan himself. Captain, what are your thoughts on today's race?
Oh, nice headphones, Marty. It's a great day for Sprint Cup racing here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. And on behalf of myself and the Morganettes, a big thanks goes out to all the viewers watching the TNT coverage from home. Get off your behinds.
How do you guys plan on enjoying today's race?
We're going to call all captains to party NASCAR style. No, we're not going to go around in an oval. Remind you to party responsibly. Captain's orders.
All right, Captain, thanks so much. And race fans, it is time for the race. Sit back, relax, and enjoy it live right here on TNT.
Pose it, Marty.
In sports, it's all about making the playoffs. In NASCAR, it's no different. The chase to the Sprint Cup begins here 11 weeks from now at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Today, this 1 mile oval serves as an opportunity for drivers to qualify for NASCAR's version of the playoffs. Welcome to NASCAR on TNT, presented by Captain Morgan. Hello again, everyone. With Kyle Petty and Wally Dallenbach, I'm Adam Alexander. We're glad you're with us for NASCAR on TNT. 3 of the last 4 races here at New Hampshire have been won by a driver who started outside the top 10. And if what's happened so far this weekend is any indication, Kyle, we could see that again here today.
So true. Qualifying is so important here for pit stall selection, for track position, everything. And what's happened is a lot of guys that were really in the top 10 or 15 in the practice runs drew terrible numbers. Now they're spread out from halfway back in the field. So they have no track position when this race starts. It's going to be interesting the first part of the race to see if they can get their track position.
And there will be a number of different drivers playing various games trying to gain that track position, Wally.
Well, like Kyle just mentioned, first of all, you got to get through traffic, and traffic is very difficult to get through here. So track position is important. We'll be talking about it all day. A lot you'll see is going to happen in the pits, where these guys take 2 tires, which I'm sure we're going to see some of those guys, if they can't work through traffic, they're going to take 2 tires to get that track position. So they'll be playing that all day.
And this game is all about parity because the last 10 drivers here all have been different. Coors Light, the official beer of NASCAR, is the proud sponsor of the Coors Light Pole Award, given to the fastest qualifier in each NASCAR Sprint Cup race. This week's Coors Light Pole Award winner, Juan Pablo Montoya, his second consecutive pole award here at New Hampshire. On the front row with him, Casey Kane, a driver who has been hot in recent weeks. Row number 2, Kurt Busch has won 3 of the last 12 races at New Hampshire. Mark Martin won here in September. Ryan Newman in row 3, he got his first career win here back in 2005. And row number 5, highlighted by the most recent winner of the series, Jimmy Johnson, and Clint Boyer, who won here in 2007. Jeff Burton's won here 4 times. Let's hear from him, Kyle Petty.
Hey, Jeff Burton, Kyle Petty here. Can you hear me? Jeff Burton, this is Kyle Petty. Do you have me?
Yeah, Kyle, I got you.
Hey, man, there was a few years ago here, you just owned this place, and the Childress organization, you guys in particular, have just been phenomenal this year. Today, you're starting 15th, 16th, 17th, right in that range. What's today look like as far as for you guys?
It's been good in practice. We haven't been quite as good as we needed to be, but everybody made some changes this morning, and I feel real confident we've done the right stuff. So 300 laps down short, but it's still a little bit of a long race. So we gotta be smart and do the right things and have ourselves in the position we need to be in.
All right, man. Well, good luck to you. You're my pick today, man, so I'm pulling for you.
We're in the pool together.
Less than a lap until we go green, so we get our Burger King race analysis for today's Lenox Industrial Tools 301. Just over 300 miles, 318.46 to be exact. Pit road speed today, 45 miles per hour. Want to keep our eye on that because there will likely be some green flag stops at some point during this race. And with that, you see the pit window between 70 and 75 laps. And one car going to the tail of the field. Bobby Labonte in the 7 this week for Robbie Gordon. He hit the wall here in practice on Friday. And a quick note, Montoya wins the pole but chooses the outside lane. Wally?
I guess that's a little bit surprising. I don't know. I mean, you know, it usually takes a couple laps to get the pressures up on these tires. Normally the guy on the inside is going to push up the racetrack. I think I'd rather be the guy pushing up the racetrack right now than the guy on the outside. We'll see how it works out.
We'll see how it works out indeed. In fact, right now, because the green flag's set to go in the air, race 17 in 2010. We're glad you're with us for NASCAR on TNT. We're underway in New Hampshire.
Yeah, Montoya got a good start, so he had the corner all to himself.
First battle for position. 5th, Ryan Newman working the inside of Mark Martin. David Rudeman there as well. Hornish a little slick off of turn 4.
Yeah, these cars don't, I mean, this track doesn't have a whole lot of grip to begin with, so about in the next lap or two, this would be the best the cars will be as far as getting a hold of the racetrack.
Rudeman started 6th today. He's battling Mark Martin for the final spot inside the top 5. Just behind them, Boyer and Hornish going at it for position. And now the battle for 2nd. Here's Kurt Busch to the inside of Kane. He grabs the runner-up spot.
And you know, the 2 car got a good run up off 4, but at the same time, Casey kind of gave him that position right now. You don't want to run too wide here on your good tires and use your good tires up if you don't have to.
4 on the 39.
The difference between 2nd and 3rd at this point in time in the race means absolutely nothing. So you see those guys, it's really hard to drive up off the corner here. You can roll in on somebody and get to the bottom. But, you know, we heard these guys talk about practice. It's hard to beat somebody up off the corner on the inside.
And Wally, long straightaways here at New Hampshire means you better get off the corner if you're going to have a chance to gain ground.
It really does. And, you know, when we talk about rolling through the corner, you want to roll through the corner so you got the car pointed straight down the straightaway and you can get all the way on the gas about just past the middle of the corner. So it makes the straightaway longer when you can get on the throttle that early. And that's the key here.
And you look at this pack right here, and it's just like we talked about in the opening. You know, these guys were really good cars. They qualified farther back. They've got to work their way. Wally, you hit it. It's so hard to get through traffic. And you see why here. We've got guys going backwards. We've got guys going forward. We've got guys running 3 wide in the middle of the corner here. It's tough to make time coming from the back. The whole time this is going on, those front 2 or 3 cars are getting away from it.
Exactly. I mean, you can see when you guys are running 2, 3, they're a second slower than the leaders right now. So it is, and that's why the track position, when it comes to the pit stop, these guys will try to pick off as many guys as they can. But I really think when it comes to the pit stops, you're going to see a lot of these guys that are struggling in traffic, you know, do something different than everybody else in pit lane, like 2 tires.
Saw Jeff Gordon and Jeff Burton running near one another on track. They both started outside the top 15 today. In fact, Gordon dropped back a couple of positions at the beginning of this race, but here he's working on Scott Speed for 16th.
And he was struggling with Scott Speed. He just drove down in turn 3 and slid up in front of him. And that's what you'll see a lot here. This racetrack is so flat, you can really drive off into the corner and be a little bit more aggressive getting in the corner. But the center part of the corner, when the car begins to lose the front end or begins to wash up the racetrack, you got to make sure nobody's on your outside.
A fine line between patience and aggression when you come to a racetrack like New Hampshire. Montoya, the race leader, after starting on the pole. We noted that he selected the outside lane, made it work for him. 1.2 seconds he's in front of second place Kurt Busch as Jeff Burton opens up the inside door on David Reagan. That's for 14th. And Gordon will follow through as well. Almost looked like a running back with an offensive lineman in front of him. Burton cleared the way, and Gordon said, "I'm following you through."
It's good if you can follow somebody that'll do that, because he'll definitely open the door up for you if you can follow a guy like that. And Jeff Burton knows how to get through traffic around this place as good as anybody. But it's saying that, you know, like you said, they're 14th spot, but they're already 8 seconds behind the leader.
Jimmy Johnson started 10th today. His teammate Mark Martin, realizing the 48 is quicker, just got out of his way.
Just gets out of the way. There's no reason for those guys to run 2 wide, you know, 9 laps into the race. Mark sees him coming. He's already running down from 8 or 10 car lengths behind. He pulls over. Mark loses very little time. Jimmy loses no time. But to the guy behind them, they stayed equal.
Jimmy Johnson, after that win last week at Infineon, his 4th of the year, jumped to 2nd in the standings. Very good in practice here yesterday. He's picked up 4 positions, 10th to 6th for Jimmy. 9 laps complete at New Hampshire. Montoya started on the pole. He continues to lead. New Hampshire, Montoya, the pole sitter, continues to lead. Kurt Busch, Casey Kane, Ryan Newman, Clint Boyer, the top 5 in the early going here this afternoon. Right now in the 10th position, Joey Logano won this race a year ago. The rain shortened 300 lapper here at New Hampshire. And while we were away, Logano feeling confident on track as he races with Sam Hornish Jr.
And Joy, you saw right there, he rolled through the center, got position on got a little bit of position on the 77, but when he went to the gas, right here, you see the lines on the racetrack, he goes up into the 77 because it just loses the front end. That's why the bottom of the racetrack is so hard. When you can get to the gas, you're in such a bad place, you need the whole racetrack to use it.
More on Joey Logano with Matt.
A great analysis by KP. That's exactly what Joey told Greg Zipadelli. The car just will not cut at this juncture in the center of the corner.
You know, this is a frustrating place as a driver because when the car won't cut in the middle of the corner, it makes it incredibly comfortable getting in the corner. So you just get brave. You just drive on down in there. And then you get in the middle and it's like, oh, it won't do anything. You start backing out of the corner a little bit or backing out of it a little bit, rolling into the corner. You don't feel like you're making any time, and it still plows in the middle. So it's a frustrating thing. You can't find a place to make your car really change that much.
And there's a couple guys, I'm looking at the 24 behind him. The 24 looks like he's just the opposite. You can see him get to the center and the thing just almost goes sideways like it's pivoted. So he's loose in the center, which is no fun either.
Yeah, I've never driven in this configuration one of these cars up here, but these guys talk about as these cars go in, when they're real free, they really rotate getting in the corner, but you've got to have them free getting in. And there's nothing worse than getting to the end of one of these straightaways at 100 and whatever miles an hour, slamming on brakes and turning in and feeling that rear end get light as you float off in there.
Near miss for Marcos Ambrose a week ago at Sonoma. He's 13th right now, Marty.
Yeah, so far it's been a pretty good weekend, Adam. I had a long conversation with Marcos this morning about what happened last week, and he said, listen, we had to come here with a different attitude. We had a team meeting Tuesday, told everybody to put it behind them. He said, listen, it was absolutely the most devastating moment of my career, but we had to come here relaxed and believing in ourselves, knowing we could run out front. That meant more than anything. So he said it could have devastated us, but we weren't going to let it. They came here with the right attitude, running pretty well so far this weekend too, guys.
And you know what, Marty, and Kyle mentioned it in the pre-race. One of the guys that has the best attitude in this sport right now is Marcos Ambrose, because he really, I don't know if I could put it away like he put it away after what happened last week. I mean, I'd still be thinking about it.
Let me just say, after last week, I would be staying in a hotel room up here because I would have ripped the door off my bus when I got back to my motor coach. You know what I mean? I could not have put it behind. But, you know, I think watching the interviews this week, and I said it on all the different shows he was on, the way he confronted it, the way he addressed it, it's like, okay, I'm going to put it in this box, I'm going to put it back here on a shelf, and it's behind me. And you know this, Wally, no matter how mad or upset you get, your comfort zone is in that race car, man. That's where you want to be. Exactly. I don't care. Yeah. Because you feel like if you do something today, that puts that one step farther behind you. Yeah. And I think that's what they come here looking to do, is put that race one step in their rearview mirror.
Brad Keselowski trying to get around Carl Edwards. This is the battle for 15th. And with that, it's time for our Aflac Trivia Quiz. The average direct cost a company spends when making Aflac available to its employees, $0. After the change to 43-car fields in 1998, what year was New Hampshire the first track to record 0 DNFs, or cars that did not finish the race?
Oh, that's a DNF.
Hey, I'm trying to help some people, okay?
What year was New Hampshire? I don't understand the question.
Okay, yeah. I'll read it again.
What year did they have no DNFs? No, did everybody finish the race? I think is what he's trying to say.
I think I know the answer to that. I can't say, can I?
Don't say. Hold it, all right? We're only 24 laps in. Somebody save us. Montoya leads this afternoon. NASCAR Sprint Cup Series racing from Loudon, New Hampshire, presented by Captain Morgan. Good to have you with us on this Sunday afternoon. 31 of 301 laps complete here at New Hampshire, and Kurt Busch getting aggressive as Montoya worked lap traffic while we were away.
Yeah, I think Juan just caught traffic, and he caught traffic in a bad place, too wide, and the 2 car just run in on him and run down under him, really, up here in turns 3 and 4. Once Juan gets back out and can use the whole racetrack, then Juan stretches it back out again.
Montoya has lapped up to 35th in the running order. David Strimmy right now, the final car on the lead lap in that 26 machine. He scored in the 35th position. And there you see Strimmy right in front of Montoya. This is what we talked about a moment ago.
And the 46, he just could not accelerate up off the corner because Strimmy and the 46 were side by side. And you see how close the 2 gets right here. But Juan's not having any of it. He just gasses up right here. The 26 of Strimmy gives him plenty of room. And then when we see our next shot here, see how far he's already stretched it back out from that close.
I think the 2 gave him a little bit of a gift there too.
Oh, yeah.
He could have forced that issue and blocked the 42 car behind that guy.
Kyle mentioned the 46 car. J.J. Yaley driving that one here today. Time to answer our Aflac Trivia Quiz. After the change to 43-car fields in 1998, you guys following this so far?
98.
What year was New Hampshire the first track to record 0 DNFs?
Which would be from 99 to present. Is that what you're saying?
That would be from 99 to present.
Finally, I got it right.
It took us 2.5 minutes to get that figured out. Now we give you the answer.
I don't know the answer. I thought I did, but
2007, 3 years ago in the fall.
Wow.
A.J. Allmendinger in a Ford.
A lot of build-up for that.
Yeah.
Able to get around Carl Edwards.
I'll be able to sleep tonight
back in your tire
knowing the answer for that one. Adam, do you pick these?
Is there any sarcasm right now?
None at all.
Saw A.J. Allmendinger up to 15th. He's the biggest mover in this race.
No, the 2 looks like
he's gained.
Yeah, he's moving in.
Yeah, I agree. The 2 may have given him a gift a minute ago. Like you said,
going into 3.
First caution of the day for debris. It's over in turn 3, and the caution coming out at lap 34.
What was the pit window?
70 to 75.
Okay, so we'll see some strategies here. Some of those guys right now that were like Harvick and Truex and those guys that are like 22nd, 23rd. I want to see some two-tire stops. Now, of course, the leaders take two. If the leaders take 2 tires, it's not going to help much.
Guys, there is no question. I think we'll see a plethora of 2-tire stops here. You got to come and get fuel. You're halfway through the fuel run, but I think you'll see a bunch of them. Maybe even some of the guys up front go with 2 tires.
We showed you Juan Pablo Montoya in traffic a moment ago, getting around David Strimmy. Montoya did not go around any other cars. That means Strimmy the first a lap down, meaning he will receive the free pass on this, our first caution of the day. They've got the debris in turn 3, and now the strategy that we just talked about going to play out for real on pit road, because pit road is open, and no question it will be a busy place. Lap 36 is when we will get the drivers down the pit lane for the first time. To Marty Snyder.
Adam, a lot of fast cars on this end of pit road, including Clint Boyer running in the 4th position. He said, don't touch this chassis. It's about perfect. Shane Wilson thought about 4 tires here, or 2 tires actually, but decided at the last minute they're going to go for 4, Ralph.
This car got loose a lot quicker than Kurt Busch thought it would, but then as the run progressed, it started to get a little bit better. He got more grip. They're just making an air pressure adjustment, Phil.
Ralph, the 9 of Casey Kane wants to keep his track position. He came in here running 3rd. They're going to do 2 right side tires. 8 seconds, Matt.
Traffic, and the car started to go to the free side for Juan Pablo Montoya. They already made a chassis adjustment and air pressure change to try to tighten him up. He loses a few spots on pit road.
2, the magical number in regard to tires. Casey Kane up a couple of spots. Mark Martin a big mover as well.
That's a yes.
Cleanup complete on our first caution of the day. Debris in turn 3. You still have plenty of time to log on to NASCAR.com/TNT Million. You could win up to $1 million. Pick the top 10 drivers in today's finishing order in the correct order, and you will win up to $1 million. Do so by going on to TNT Million, or rather NASCAR.com/TNT Million. The restart happens at lap 39. Front row, Casey Kane and Mark Martin. 8 drivers took 2 tires on those pit stops. In the mix up front of those drivers you see coming at you. Montoya, the one that took 4 tires, and he's the most aggressive into the corner.
But he could be aggressive and go below that yellow line, getting in that corner because he's got 4 tires to stick, where some of these other guys have 2. That was an aggressive move, going into the corner 3 wide and ducking below onto the dirty apron at that time.
And we don't have a yellow line rule here at Test Racetrack, so if you want to go in the grass, don't recommend it, but you can go as low as you want in these corners.
But I'm going to tell you something. There's guys that are watching, and Larry could probably speak to this. There's guys that are watching to see when these 2 tires, 4 tires equalize between the 42 and some of the guys that took 2 tires, and how important it is when it gets late in the race, if you're going to gamble and take 2, or do I take track position and take 4?
Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth, Casey Kane, Mark Martin, David Reagan, Greg Biffle, and Joey Logano. Some of the drivers that elected to take 2 tires on those first stops of the day at lap 36.
That's a good shot right there. It showed the 42 really rotate in the middle, pick up the gas, and Kyle Busch, he was right there on the nose. Kyle gave him a little bit of room, and he took that position.
It looks also like 42 is driving pretty hard right now. You know, you could tell he's up on the wheel at this point.
This the battle from second on back. Casey Kane, the race leader.
The interesting part a minute ago, we see the same three cars up front, the 2, the 9, and the 42. They're in a little bit different position right now, as we see these guys 3 wide right here. But the thing was, once these guys got out, they seemed to equalize after a little bit. But remember, they all started the race on equal tires. Now they're on a little bit different strategy, so you'll see how it works out. But they're still the same 3 cars up front.
Clint Boyer has looked good this weekend. Had a nice qualifying run. You saw him, as Kyle talked, go around Jeff Gordon, Joey Logano. Boyer right now scored in the 7th position.
And Wally can speak to this. You know, once you win a race on a racetrack, every time you go back, you think you can win a race on that same racetrack. You hear professional golfers speak about it. You hear guys home court advantage. All of a sudden, that track becomes your home court. I don't care if Kent Boyer is from Kansas. This is his home track because this is where he feels confident.
First career win came here in 07, Waller.
Yeah, and Kyle's right. I mean, you look at the guys that run this place. Well, I mean, Ryan Newman won a modified race here yesterday, you know, or the day before. So you get to a track where you really like, you look forward coming back to. And let's not forget, this is the first race in the Chase when they come back here in the fall. This is an important place to get your car right, not only for today, but so when you come back, if you're going to be in the points hunt, you've got to run good here.
You mentioned Ryan Newman. He got his first career win in the Whelen Modified Series here yesterday. His first Cup win came here as well. And right behind him, Joey Logano, another of those first-time winners at New Hampshire. He became the youngest driver to win in the Cup Series 1 year ago. They are right now 10th and 11th on track. Just in front of them, a couple of drivers who've been moving through the field nicely. Veterans Jeff Gordon, 3 victories at New Hampshire, and right behind him, Jeff Burton, who's won here more than anyone else.
And Jeff's one of those guys. It's just one of those guys. You're not going to see a whole lot out of him until we get to the end of the race, and then he'll be there.
Tony Stewart, one of the drivers trying to get out of line, tucked in behind David Ruderman and David Reagan. Smoke right now in the 14th position. Not looking too bad, Marty.
Not too bad so far, Adam, and he's one of those guys we were kind of keeping an eye on. Started 25th today, and yesterday in practice, one of the best cars out here. I talked to Darian Grubb, and I said, really, what's the plan? Very tempting there, as you mentioned, Wally, taking 2 tires on that first stop, but Darian said, we're sticking with our plan. If Tony cannot race his way to the top 10 or top 5 by lap 100, they'll have to do it by strategy, but they feel like they have a fast enough car to race their way to the front, so they're going to stick with that. 4 tires on this last stop for Stewart, a little too loose, so they did a wedge adjustment, trying to tighten it up a little bit, slowly making his way through the field.
And Marty will ride along with Smoke. And fans, if you want more TNT coverage, the Coca-Cola in-car camera on Race Buddy lets you ride shotgun with Coca-Cola Racing family drivers. Check out the Coca-Cola in-car camera on NASCAR.com's Race Buddy. You can do so right now.
And you know, that's an easy decision for a driver to make. If you've got a good race car, and you know, the caution comes out, you'd rather take 4 tires than do that. You know, you don't want to take 2 just to put you up there, because then you're on just 2. But if you feel like you've got a good race car, a driver a lot of times will go, yeah, just give me 4, we'll get there.
And before we had this caution, he had picked up 9 or 10 positions, so he was racing himself to the front. He was coming to the front. That was cool, because we just caught that. He comes up off the corner, keys the mic, and tells him a little bit loose up off the corner, but other than that, I'm pretty good. That a lot of times we hear the audio and it's under caution. It's pretty cool how calm he was right there, just running along, catching these guys in front of him.
How quickly do they spread out here at New Hampshire? Stewart running good, but he's 7.5 seconds behind leader Casey Kane, who took the lead on that exchange of pit stops after taking 2 tires. He's been out front the last 13 laps, Phil.
He sure has. Kenny Francis raised the track bar a little bit. Adam, he said he was a little tight across the center of the corner. He took a little bit of air out of the right front tire. Right now, Casey has not said anything about the car, but his car is consistently one of the fastest on the racetrack, if not the fastest, Matt.
Phil, when you look at the 42 car, Fuji Brian Patty told me this morning they learned a valuable lesson this weekend, and they see it week in, week out. When you fix the car in one area, you can make it worse in another. They migrated back to their setup that they were using on Friday and let Juan Pablo adjust from the inside the cockpit as far as trying to help his exit. They were back to the speeds near the end of final practice, and he's back trying to chase down that 9 car, the car on the free side like it was on Friday. And Wally and KP, time and time again, you guys behind the wheel, again, show how much of a difference you can make with that right foot.
Well, you know, and the only adjustment a driver really has in a car is the brake bias. So you can help the car a little bit if it's doing one thing or another on brake bias. But another thing is, and this, Kyle, is a hard place to change your line, because there's only like a line and a half to work with this racetrack. So, you know, you can search a little bit to try to put the car where it wants to go, but there's really not that much room at this racetrack. It looks wide, but it's not when you're out there racing.
Jimmy Johnson looking solid today, 10th to 3rd in the early going. Casey Kane and Montoya 1-2. They're the only drivers in the top 12 who haven't won at New Hampshire.
I'm Casey Kane, and you're watching NASCAR on TNT.
Sprint Cup Series racing on TNT, presented by Captain Morgan. Casey Kane took over the race lead on an exchange of pit stop moments ago. He's been out front for the last 22 laps, and now we get our Gillette Young Guns driver update. Kane the best of them all, 4 in the top 10, and Logano and Edwards not bad, knocking on the door as well. Fans, be sure to try the new Gillette Fusion Pro Glide Razor in stores now. Montoya started this race on the pole, led the first 36 laps. We told you Kane took over the race lead after a caution at lap 36. Everyone came to pit road. Montoya is still running in the top 5. He's 2nd. Jimmy Johnson 3rd. Kurt Busch is 4th, and younger brother Kyle is 5th after starting outside the top 20 today. Ralph?
Yeah, he actually started 22nd, Adam. He got great track position by a lot of hustle from the crew on that last pit stop. They only took 2 tires and made an air pressure adjustment. But if you listen to the radio, you'll hear he's not real happy with the way the car's handling.
Car's junk, man. I can't get on the gas at all coming off the corner. Just shattering the right rear tire now. Okay, 10-4. We're all right. Got our track position. Take care of it. We'll work on it for you.
If they can calm that car back down on this next pit stop, he could pull the double off this weekend. Adam, he won the nationwide race yesterday.
That was his 6th win of the year, and in getting that victory yesterday, Ralph, he led 125 laps and became the all-time leader in nationwide series history as far as laps led, passing Mark Martin. Right now his concern, though, Wally, the man behind him, Burton, looks good early.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be concerned long. Burton definitely has the better car here, so I don't think Kyle's going to push that issue. But, you know, this is one of those racetracks where you have to almost make small adjustments sometimes. Like we talked about earlier, you can go too far, and if the car's doing one thing, you can make a change and it go completely the other way. So that problem that the 18 has, Kyle Busch, I think, you know, that sounds like a tire pressure deal or something very minor that is going to put him right back. It's not like he's completely out to lunch. I mean, he's running in the 6th or 7th spot.
And he's complaining that his car is junk. At the same time, like you said, he's running 6th or 7th, and that's a good example right there. You heard his crew chief say, we've got track position. Let's just keep it and work on it. That way, he just pulled over. You saw it going down the backstretch. He pulled over like Mark did earlier, let the 31 go because he was so much faster to keep his track position. They didn't lose a lot of ground right there.
Battle inside the top 10. We've talked about Tony Stewart now. Nice a job he's done today around Clint Boyer. Put Smoke in 9th. Boyer back to 10th now.
Yeah, and Smoke has raced his way into the top 10. Right. You know what I mean? Let's be honest. We talked about that, and you heard the report. These guys have started 24th, 25th, wherever they started right along in there. They've raced their way, and this is a hard place to race your way forward. There's 2 or 3 cars. We've looked at the 14, we've looked at the 31, we've looked at the 24, 48 has moved forward, but a lot of cars have just maintained. These guys are moving.
And I'm guessing if you're in the situation of a Stewart, Gordon, Burton, Harvick, some of those drivers that started a little deeper, you have to be patient in working your way to the front here.
Yeah, go. No, you go, man.
You do, but when you have a good race car, you don't really have to be patient because you just drive by these guys. So, and Stewart's got one of the best cars on the track right now. You know, he's got a pretty fast car. He just needs to erase that 8.8 second, you know, he has between him and the leader right now.
You have 8 more laps to get your picks in for the TNT $1 Million Fan Challenge. Try and pick the top 10 drivers in today's race in the correct finishing order. If you do, you could win up to $1 million. Go to NASCAR.com/TNT Million.
And we talk about this the last couple of weeks. I can't believe people can pick 9 out of 10. Whether you get them in the right order or not, I just can't believe you can pick that amount. That amazes me.
2 weeks ago at Michigan, someone got all 10. They just didn't get them in the right order. Someone got 9 last week. It can be done. Casey Kane feels good. He leads the Lenox Industrial Tools 301. changes among 3 drivers here at New Hampshire. Casey Kane has led the last 36 laps. Time for us to go through the field to Phil Parsons.
Adam, Casey Kane just reported on the radio that he feels like he carries the left front wheel a little bit. That's the only thing he said since the restart. Go, Matt.
2 seconds back is Juan Pablo Montoya. He says he's sliding that right rear. It's really giving up, but a problem that could develop, make it even worse as the race goes on, Marty. He's already chattering his front brakes.
Matt, believe it or not, for the first time since early April, Jimmie Johnson has strung together 3 straight top 10 finishes today. Very smooth, a small air pressure adjustment on the last stop. Not a word on this run, Ralph.
Marty, they made an air pressure adjustment on the number 2. That got the left front right. The left rear now is not working to his liking. He's struggling to roll through the center of the corner, Matt.
Jeff Burton started 17th, currently runs 5th. His car running lap times that mirror our leader. He says the run goes on, his car just gets better and better, Ralph, especially on it.
Matt, we heard the radio conversation with the 18 talking about the chattering. As this run continues, it's gotten a little bit better. He says the car's not bad, it's just not fast. But Matt, he's still struggling to roll through the center is Kyle Busch.
Jeff Gordon, his car was tight in the middle, loose on exit. They made a track bar adjustment. Gordon says that did not help his car. If anything, it made it worse. Letarte is going to reverse that adjustment on their next stop.
Well, Matt, we talked about the run through the field for Tony Stewart up to the 8th position right now. Just radioed to his crew. Maybe that adjustment a little too much last time. Now he's tight from the center 3rd off. Ralph?
Marty, the number 5 of Mark Martin was a little too tight, so they loosened him up. They gained him some track position as well by just putting 2 tires on that car.
Well, Ralph, how about this run to the top 10 for A.J. Allmendinger? He started further back than Tony Stewart in 28th. And yes, on that stop, it was 4 tires. A little too tight right now, but he said don't make too many big changes on it. Larry?
I tell you, Marty, a car I've been watching since the drop of the green flag, Dale Earnhardt Jr. in that 88 car, qualified back in the 31st position. And in that first run before that first caution, they made no ground whatsoever. But Lance McGrew brought him to pit road, made adjustments. They did go with forced tires, and he has now cracked the top 15, running 14th. Just an update on our points leader, Kevin Harvick, in the 29, started back in the 24th position, just slowly making his way to the front. Problem is he's over a half a lap down. I think Todd Berry and that group sitting back in the 17th spot. They've still got work to do on this Pennzoil 29 car.
And Larry, with this race staying green and Casey Kane picking him up and putting him down like he is, you better get it figured out quickly or you'll be a lap down. 78 laps complete at New Hampshire. Take an inside look at what's happening now in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by Sprint and Evo 4G, America's first 4G phone. Not been a perfect day for Kevin Harvick, but he is still the point leader. Montoya's been good throughout the afternoon, and he recorded the fastest lap time. For more NASCAR stats and live in-car audio, check out NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile and the new Evo only from Sprint at sprint.com/speed. And you see Montoya, despite the fact that he had the quickest lap time today, he's dropped to 3rd. That happened during break. Jimmie Johnson able to drive around him, and here comes the 48 again to the front, and just behind these guys, 4th and 5th, Kurt Busch and Jeff Burton.
Jeff Burton, you know, like I said, up to 5th spot right now. He's just slowly but surely making his way towards the front of the field.
Lap 86, green flag pit stop for Tony Stewart, Marty.
This one is scheduled, Adam, but much earlier than they had expected. Darian Grubb just told me they did not get the car full on the last stop for Tony Stewart. It's extremely tight. You see them making the wedge adjustments on both sides of the race car, trying to loosen it up for Stewart. A long time here on the left rear of the car as well. And fuel, now they pitted about 20 laps earlier than everybody else, Adam.
Last time Stewart and everyone was on pit road under caution at lap 36. In fact, we've only had 1 caution in this race today for 4 laps. It was debris in turn 3. Other than that, we have been clean and green. You got these long straightaways here at New Hampshire. That means you drive it hard into the corner. And one of the things we talk about a lot when we get to this racetrack is brake bias, Larry.
Yeah, I'm here at our TNT test car, and you heard Wally and Kyle talking about the drivers adjusting the brake bias. A NASCAR Sprint Cup Series car has 2 separate brake systems. One for the front, one from the rear. You see right here, we have 2 separate master cylinders. One thing that a driver can adjust from the cockpit without coming to pit road is that brake bias. He has this knob right here within his reach, sitting right here on the right side leg rest. And what he can do, he can crank and put a little more pressure to the front, or he can crank a little more pressure to the rear. And how that works, if the car is a little bit loose getting in the corner on the braking, you'll crank just a little more front to it. If the car won't turn getting in the corner on the braking, you can crank just a little more rear to it. So that's just one of the adjustments that these guys can make. And you know what? You may adjust it over the course of a run. You may put more front brake in it when you're full of fuel with all the weight in the rear, and as you burn that fuel load off, then you may have to crank a little rear brake into it. One correction, Gil Martin is now the crew chief of the 29 car. Richard keeps swapping crew chiefs on me.
Yeah, but Larry, you said this is one of the adjustments for the drivers. You guys won't let us have any other adjustments in the car.
Well, there's a reason.
And you know what?
Y'all can't even keep up with how many times you turn this knob.
McReynolds won't let you have any toys either. He's got all of them, including the one you just saw. It's the TNT off-track race car presented by Toyota. We showed you Tony Stewart on pit road. He was in a bit early. Everyone else should be pitting under green when we return. You're watching NASCAR on TNT. TNT tonight. It's a new season and a new reason to get more leverage. Don't miss an all-new Leverage 2-hour event tonight, 9/8 Central, only on TNT. Casey Kane has looked good the last couple of weeks. Back-to-back top 5 finishes at Michigan and the Infineon Raceway 1 week ago. Has taken driver number 9 from 23rd to 18th in the championship standings. He's back in the discussion in regard to the chase for the Sprint Cup. And he's flexing his muscles here today. Took over the lead at lap 36. He's been out front for the last 60 laps here at New Hampshire.
About a second behind him, though, is that 48 car. And that 48 car is on its way to the front. He has been very fast over the last 5 or 6 laps. I've been watching the times. And he is hooked up right now. And looked awfully hooked up in practice as well.
And you know what, guys, what I'm seeing watching the score monitor, Wally, it looks like you're seeing the same thing I'm seeing. Is most laps that 48 beats the 9 about 1 to 2 tenths. But it looks like about the time he catches him, we're going to be right on top of green flag pit stops, which should come in the next 8 to 10 laps.
Last time these teams were on pit road under caution at lap 36. That was our only caution of the day for debris. 37 of the cars that started this race still on track and running. The lead for Casey Kane just over a second in front of Jimmy Johnson. In fact, as they cross the start-finish line, 0.8 of a second, the advantage for Kane. Talked a lot in 2010. One of the great storylines, the turnaround at Richard Childress Racing. They were good a week ago out west at Sonoma. Didn't get rewarded for their efforts in most situations, but they've looked good here this weekend. And I'll tell you, Hendrick Motorsports maybe has lost a little bit of their appeal because of the run that Joe Gibbs Racing has been on and the RCR bunch. But as you saw there, they've been good today as well.
But you know, those 3 organizations have been the organizations. You look at it and you look at Childress, you look at Gibbs, you look at Hendricks, and you know, sometimes we don't give enough credit to Earnhardt Ganassi. These guys won the Daytona 500. You know, and you look at what they've done and where they've been, and they run the Earnhardt Ganassi engines. So they're the same thing as the Childress. So they're right there knocking on that door. As we see the 48 car, he is knocking right on the door right here of the lead.
It's gone from a second to 0.2 of a second in the last 4 laps. Talking about the advantage for Casey Kane. Johnson has not led a lap today.
Yeah, he took 2, correct?
Johnson took 4.
Casey took 2. And Jimmy took 4. So that's, you're starting to see a little bit of that right now, especially at the end of a run.
Yeah, and especially at the end of the run, where the 4 tires are going to show up is more. And I was surprised at the beginning of this run with the 9 and the 42. The 42 gained within about a second of him and really couldn't get any closer than the 9 car. Maintained, you see him right there in that shot. They've maintained that interval pretty much since they dropped the green flag on this run.
Jimmy Johnson continues to close the gap on the leader, Casey Kane.
You can see the 48. Well, he's got the 82. Casey lost a little bit of time there with the slower car in front of him. At that time, through 3 and 4, the 48 gained a lot on the 9 car.
The slower car Wally referred to, Scott Speed in the 82, the last car on the lead lap. He's currently 25th.
Yeah, and Scott's got to do everything he can right now to try to stay on the lead lap.
That 48 car is working. The way he turned left under that line coming out of turn 4 or turn 2 over there, his car was good right there. He just was patient, let it rotate.
Clear by half.
And I would guess some of this is patience on Jimmy's part, realizing how good the race car is, and we're only a third of the way through this race.
And how good his pit crew is. I mean, that's another thing. These guys come in, and easily these guys can, either the 9 can maintain or the 48 can make a spot up just on a pit stop.
Green flag pit stops are underway as you see a change for the 3rd position. Burton around Montoya. And as that's happening on track on pit road, Paul Menard, Marcos Ambrose, and David Rudiman have all made stops under green. Kenseth and Hornish coming to pit road now at lap 104.
Burton's been impressive. He's kind of just methodically, workmanlike, just worked his way up through the field. And you see these guys, I think the 48 would have already probably been by the 9 at this point in time if it had not been for the 82 there. But the 48s give the 9 plenty of time to race, plenty of room to race. But you look at this 48, look him roll right there. The way he rolls right in the center. Oh, the 9 car's coming in right here.
Casey Kane going to join Clint Boyer and Carl Edwards, who have already been in for service, and right behind him Montoya coming in as well. Scheduled green flag pit stops just past lap 100. Let's go to Phil Parsons.
Adam, the important thing to remember is he was able to lead on 2 tires the entire fuel run. They're going to raise the track bar a little bit. He's a little bit tight through the center of the corner and off. But right now, Casey Kane, 4 tires as our leader. Matt.
Pablo Montoya, they're going to make a chassis adjustment across the back, both sides. This car's snappy loose, but also tight. He needed help more with the tight. To Marty.
Matt, Jimmy Johnson was coming at the end of that run. You saw him battling with Casey Kane for the lead. The only thing Jimmy said during that run, the balance is right. The car a little bit too loose for Jimmy. They're going to make very slight wedge adjustment. Ahead of him on pit road, A.J. Allmendinger, who said his car was tight, but don't make too many big swings at it. A very small wedge adjustment for A.J. Allmendinger, who raced his way into the top 10. Phil?
Marty Dale Earnhardt Jr. had gained 20 positions from the start of the race. They're just going to clean the grill. The car's so good right now. No adjustments for the 88 car.
Ralph, here comes Kurt Busch. They're going to try to get that left rear working for him this time. Ray Gallahan shoves a jack up underneath the number 2. They're going to take 4 tires this time. Doesn't look like they're going to make just a small track adjustment to the chassis on the backside, Matt.
A long stop on the 11, Jimmy Hamlin. Meanwhile, the 24, Jeff Gordon, they're going to reverse an adjustment they made earlier with the track bar. Going to go back up, also make an air pressure change in the right rear to help the drive off the corner. He needs to drive off a little straighter and help the car cut in the center. He's away.
Point leader Kevin Harvick also came to pit road on this exchange of green flag pit stops. Ryan Newman had stayed on the racetrack, became the race leader, but now he comes for service, Ralph.
Here comes the 39 of Ryan Newman. He's tight through the center. They're going to try to get the car to rotate better, and he'll be real good at that point. He didn't get into the pit box the way he wanted to. Kind of hangs out right rear, but it's inside the line. That's key. He gets 4 tires and fuel, and he's going to get underway. A little bit of a slow stop. That'll kill you at track position here.
Can we go back and find out, hey, Marty, what did they, there was a problem on the 48. Obviously, these guys are racing for the lead, and now that they're back on the racetrack, there's a big difference between where the 9 and the 48. Did they have some trouble back there?
You see Casey Kane on track here.
Here's the interesting thing. Yeah, and Marty will get back to us. Here's the interesting thing right here. The 14 is leading the race. Remember, he didn't get his car full of fuel. He had to pit early. That shows how much time he made up when all those guys were on old tires. Now we're going to see these guys drive back past him because now they have 10 or 15 lap fresher tires. But that happens here. You see how that cycle, all of a sudden, Tony was out to lunch, a lap down, 29th, 30th, right along in there. Now that it's cycled back, the 9 car comes out obviously in front of him or comes out behind him and passes him, but he has track position if he could get a caution sometime now.
You're right on board with Tony Stewart. He's now in second. Casey Kane able to go around him. Green flag pit stops complete. just past lap 100 at New Hampshire. "116 laps complete at New Hampshire." You're watching NASCAR on TNT, presented by Captain Morgan. Casey Kane leads this race. We continue under green. And how important are green flag pit stops? Here are the numbers. Kane leading, Kyle Busch is second, Jimmy Johnson now being scored in the 9th position. All of this changes taking place on that cycle of stops a moment ago.
Well, yeah, the pit stop killed Jimmy Johnson, whatever the problem was, and Marty can let us know what happened down there. But those guys came into the pits basically nose to tail, so to speak, and now there's a big difference in where they're at on the track, Marty.
Yeah, Wally, what happened was they hung a lug nut on the left rear at the very end of the stop for Jimmy Johnson and couldn't get it back on. They had to hand grab the lug nut to be able to get it back on there and get Jimmy back out on time. You see that one very small mistake and how much time it cost them on the racetrack. This is a team that very rarely makes a mistake on pit road. But the good news is they made it early in the race. They've got time to catch it up now.
Yeah, like Marty mentioned, that one little mistake right now, there's 7 seconds between him and Casey Kane. And that's a tough 7 seconds to make up.
The problem is that 7 seconds he had already made up one time. So now you got to go back and make it up again. He had already driven up there. And that is the part that as a driver frustrates you sometimes. But let me tell you something. What goes around comes around. We've seen Jimmy make mistakes. We've seen the crew make mistakes. Something that they don't normally do, but at the same time, they've rebounded from all their mistakes too. So I don't think it's killed them at this point in time in a race.
Tony Stewart, one of the big movers today, up 20 positions from where he started, but he's about to fall outside the top 5. Jeff Gordon driving around the outside of smoke for that position, right behind Kurt Busch, who's been good throughout the afternoon.
Hey guys, on Tony Stewart, the thing he needs more than anything out there is a caution in about the next 25 to 30 laps to get him back on sequence, because right now we're at lap 121. He's going to have to come to pit road by about lap 155 because he's going to need fuel. What we're watching right now is the difference in 20 laps on these tires.
And 20 laps, pretty much the difference, because most drivers came in under green at lap 106. And if you were watching this early, you heard Marty point out Tony Stewart had to come in at lap 86 under green because the team did not get the car full of fuel on their first pit stop under caution earlier today. Kane leads Kyle Busch by 1.2 seconds. Busch was 7th prior to those green flag pit stops. Montoya, Burton, Jeff Gordon, the top 5. 122 laps complete at New Hampshire. New Hampshire and NASCAR fans, your vote helped determine last week's rank from Infineon Raceway. Jeff Gordon currently in the lead with Dale Jr. and Jimmy Johnson not far behind. Be sure to cast your vote for the AT&T Fastest Pit Crew. You can do so from your AT&T phone. Text the car number to 2258 for the crew you think is the fastest and most valuable. TNT will reveal the standings each week, so make sure to vote. The AT&T Fastest Pit Crew of the Year award brought to you by AT&T, the nation's fastest 3G network. Brad Keselowski has gone a lap down. He's there in the 12 car. Just behind him, some guys getting after it for 3rd. Montoya has that spot. Jeff Burton and Jeff Gordon closing in. You got to feel good here if you're Burton and Gordon. Both these drivers started outside the top 15 today. Just over 100 laps, they've gotten themselves solidly inside the top 10, now inside the top 5. They've done the hard work. Now they just stay in the game and have a chance to make something happen late.
Yeah, but now they put themselves in position to race. You know, before they've had to work themselves in position to race. You know, you can run your rear end off all day long and never have a shot at winning a race. They've raced or put themselves now in a position to win this race if things play out that way. We've seen so many odd situations play out at a New Hampshire race. This thing's never over till they throw the checkered flag. We've seen rain. There's so many things that can happen here, but they put themselves there now.
I know you guys when I love when I play trivia. So when was the last time A.J. Allmendinger finished outside the top 15?
Last time he finished outside the top 15?
Outside the top 15.
Daytona 500.
Oh, boy. Smart Alec. It was Darlington in May. He's been very good in recent weeks.
I don't know if you remember that race. He almost finished outside the racetrack when the brakes failed going down the backstretch, and he pinned the 48 on the wall going into turn 3.
37th on that Saturday night, but he's been pretty good ever since, and once again has it going here today. AJ 7th on the racetrack, just in front of Tony Stewart. The second of 2 Fords inside the top 5.
You know, and AJ has run consistent. You know, I think they started the year, if you look at Richard Petty Motorsports, the 9 car has been the car that has been there week in and week out. But you know what? We go back to Paul Menard the first part of the year. Man, he popped off a top 5, top 10, top 10, top 10. And then AJ kind of picked up that mantle and has carried it, as you say, the last, 6, 7, 8 races. They've been more and more consistent week in and week out.
The team car has been good as well. Casey Kane leading this race and trying to get Ford their first win of the year. And speaking of Ford, there's a few of them racing back around the 18th position. Carl Edwards is there.
Taking a look inside.
Greg Biffle inside of him.
Yeah, you got a lot of good race cars here. You got Biffle there, you got Hamlin, Truex, and really talking to these guys, they all thought they were going to have really good race cars. They really felt that they were going to work their way up to the front, but they've kind of been just stuck back here in this 17th through 20th.
All of these drivers inside the chase as of now. Edwards the loser on this exchange. He goes from 18th to 20th. Biffle and Hamlin both drive around him. Greg Biffle, very good last week at Infineon Raceway. 7th on the road course. And now we check out the Built Ford Tough driving force. Biffle has quite a history here at New Hampshire. 6 times he's finished in the top 10 in 15 races. And driver 16 does know what it's like to go to victory lane here. Some work to do today, but he's currently 18th.
And they're running good lap times. I mean, it's not like
they're taking a look. 4 back tonight.
Not like they're out to lunch. It's just that again, it's that track position. They're 15, 20, 25 seconds back behind the leader.
Yeah, his teammates really struggling. Matt Kenseth, the last car on the lead lap in the 17. Casey Kane trying to put him a lap down. In recent history, this is not a track that has been good to the Roush Fenway organization. And we talk about Matt Kenseth. A change in their crew chief lineup. Todd Parrott, who was calling the shots since race 2 this season, has gone back to the R&D department. And the man who was heading up that piece of the organization, Jimmy Finning, longtime crew chief with the Roush Fenway group, has moved back to the pit box and now calling the shots for Matt. And another change. Bobby Labonte, former series champion in the 7 this week, instead of Robbie Gordon. He has now gone 2 laps down to the race leader. And next week, Labonte expected to drive the 09 for James Finch at Daytona, and again the following week at Chicago. Told you earlier about the battle heating up for 3rd. It's here now. Jeff Burton knocking on the door of Montoya.
Yeah, Jeff just, again, we saw it earlier. He's just methodically been working his way towards the front. He's running very, very smooth, great lap times. He's just a little bit quicker right now than Montoya. So it'll be interesting to see if Montoya fights him for this position or if he lets him go. The problem is he's getting hung up, and the 24 car is catching those two.
Every driver kind of has a different attitude on how they're going to handle these situations. Right now, Montoya hanging strong. Kane leads at New Hampshire. NASCAR on TNT presented by Captain Morgan. Back in New England, Casey Kane continues to lead this afternoon. His advantage over 2nd place Kyle Busch, 1.3 seconds. And here is a race for 3rd on the racetrack. Burton to the inside of Montoya. Looks like this time he's going to get it done. But it hasn't been all smiles for driver 31. He had a mess a minute ago.
And he had his hands full coming off of turn 2. He was trying to get underneath Montoya. And he was turning, and you're down on the low line, and you think you got to run, and boy, you stand on the gas, and things just jump sideways on him. This shot shows how sideways he was.
Had to work a little bit, didn't he, Kyle?
And look at those black marks, man. The thing just hangs out there, and you're like, man, I got no tires on this thing. Well, no wonder. You've been sideways 3/4 of the time around the racetrack. But it is, you know, the car pushes up, just like Wally says. You get up, you're turning. The front grips, the rear jumps out from under, and you're gone.
Burton now in third. Gordon goes to work on Montoya for fourth. Matt Yoakum.
And Jeff Gordon working his way to the front. He told Steve Letarte a few laps ago that the car is just so free on exit. It's a handful. Letarte responded by saying, I know it's not fun to drive, but you are definitely faster this run on the stopwatch as he undertakes the low line there on the 42 of Montoya.
Gordon finally able to complete the pass. Kyle Busch continues to hang around. He was not satisfied with his car a little bit earlier, but right now he's second behind Casey Kane. Guess who's back? It's TNT Race Buddy. Log on to NASCAR.com and you can watch up to 4 live camera angles at once with the new TNT Race Buddy Mosaic View. TNT Race Buddy only on NASCAR.com. So to give you an idea of what's happened today here at New Hampshire, only one caution. It came out just past lap 34 debris. 149 of the 301 laps now complete. We're closing on halfway. Teams have pitted twice, once under the aforementioned caution, a second time under green. 3 different leaders today, as well, two different dominant leaders. Montoya started on the pole, led the first 36 laps. Kane has been the best of them all in regard to laps led, and another driver who's serving notice, Dale Earnhardt Jr. going after Jimmy Johnson for 8th. Phil?
Dale Jr. has had a great race. Started back in the 31st position. Just a few moments ago, he told his crew chief, Lance McGrew, that the car needed to rotate a touch more in the center of the corner. Otherwise, Jr., no problems.
It's after he started 31st today, Phil. An impressive run for Dale Earnhardt Jr. at a track that historically has not been good for him, and he needs a good run. You see, he's outside the top 12 in points, but now only 9 behind. It was 50 plus out when the day started, Wally.
Hey, as they run right now, I mean, it's very close with those guys 13th and back. I mean, it's only 50 points is nothing.
50 points is nothing, and you know, but Larry, when Larry talks about it, Larry's got a great observation on it. I think 50 points is nothing when I'm racing Wally Dallenbach, but if I've got to race Wally and then, you know, and then Adam and race everybody else that's up here in the booth, everybody's got to have trouble for you to catch up that 50. You know what I mean?
I forget his name a lot too.
Yeah,
so
I forgot. I don't know. I want to say somebody
whatever
else.
you want. Right now we're going to call Kyle Busch. He gets around Casey Kane for the race lead. And just behind them, Matt Kenseth, the lap car. I'm not sure this one's over yet. Maybe it is. More on the leader. Ralph?
Well, he really feels like they got this car headed in the right direction. They got rid of a lot of that bounce he was having a problem with. They got the car turning pretty good as well. The one thing he's working on now is the brakes. He's trying to stay off the brake pedal as much as he can, let that car roll through the turn. They talked about trying to remove some tape. Wally, Kyle, he feels like the brakes are getting a little bit soft, and as you know, you're on the brakes pretty hard here in Loudon.
Yeah, and you know that. And your point about keeping off the brakes, Ralph, is, you know, if your car is handling well, which obviously it's handling pretty good if you're leading, you don't use as much brake, and that's the key here. Well, it looks like the 9 got into the 98 Paul Menard just a little bit there. But yeah, it's really, really important to have your car roll through the center, and the less you're on the brake, the better, especially this time of the race, because those rotors are hot, the caliper's hot, everything is really, really hot. So the better you can stay off them, it's going to help everything. Yeah. And your tire temperatures too.
Tire temperature, it affects everything. And look, they run this so long under green, everything's hot. But if his pedal is going soft right now, we're 155 laps into a 301 lap race. It's going to be a long second half.
155 laps complete in the Lenox Industrial Tools 301. NASCAR Sprint Cup Series racing in Loudon, New Hampshire this afternoon, presented by Captain Morgan. Tony Stewart on pit road, Marty.
Well, until he gets a caution, this is the game Tony Stewart's going to have to play all day long, and that was a problem on the front that time for Tony Stewart. They are out of sequence with everybody else, as we mentioned, pitting 20 laps earlier. Too tight for Tony. That run, a wedge adjustment, trying to loosen it up. Now they hope for no caution until everybody else pits.
Tony Stewart out of cycle, just past halfway, so we take a look at today's Verizon race summary. 8 lead changes among 8 different drivers this afternoon. Average speed of today's race, just over 119 miles per hour. Only one caution. It came out just past lap 30 for 4 laps. It was debris in turn 3. 7 cars have retired from today's race.
You know, just like you said, Tony's on a different cycle. They can't afford mistakes. When you're on a different cycle, that one little bit, that one little tidbit of an extra second here or an extra half second there, you've got to be on your game. Once you make that initial mistake, you can't continue, because obviously they didn't get enough fuel in the tank at some point in time, which put them in a different place. Now they have a slow pit stop, which puts them in a totally different place. Little by little, mistakes add up and you take yourself out.
And even if he gets the caution right now, he's not going to be the lucky dog.
No, and
so,
he wasn't the first cycle. The first cycle, he had dropped back 5th or 6th, 1 lap down. So they took themselves way out. Now you've got to, you know, if he was unlucky enough to get a caution, if a caution came out right now, he's mired back in the pack trying to fight for the lucky dog.
Tony Stewart now 7th in line in regard to those drivers, 1 lap down to the leader. Jimmy Johnson, if you're just joining us, was about to take the race lead earlier. Problems for Regan Smith.
Oh, missed the commitment cone right there too as he come in. He tried to cut at it. Looked like he was going to run over it. He just went ahead and ran around.
Right front is flat.
The penalty probably less than what the price would have been had he continued around and had that tire shred on him. We stay under green as Regan Smith was able to get to pit road. And if Regan Smith had not gotten down, it could have caused a lot of problems for other drivers. Check this out.
And this is where a spotter is so important. I wish we had the sound here, because the spotter's probably telling him inside, inside, inside. But it took him so long to get around, he couldn't get down to get there.
It's not his spotter I'd want to hear. It's the other drivers around him that I'd want to listen to.
The other spotters at that time are holding their breath, praying that he does not turn left and start down across pit road.
Kyle Busch, the race leader, trying to sweep the weekend here at New Hampshire after a dominating win in nationwide competition yesterday. Casey Kane closing in. Green flag stops when we return. Tonight, it's a new season and a new reason to get more leverage. Don't miss an all-new Leverage 2-hour event tonight, 9/8 Central, only on TNT. The green flag pit stops are underway. Martin Truex Jr. just made his stop at lap 171. Not too far behind, Marcos Ambrose, Jamie McMurray getting service. Paul Menard hitting pit road now. Let's go back to that cycle of green flag stops about 70 laps ago, as you see Ambrose on pit road. Remember how tight the battle for the lead was between Kane and Jimmy Johnson, and how they separated on pit road? A similar situation here. Busch leading Kane, and we'll see which is better in regard to getting on and off the pit lane under green after they make their stops.
And after all that happened, Johnson is still 7 seconds behind Casey Kane.
Picked up no ground. Johnson in 8th right now.
And that's impressive for Casey and those guys. That showed Casey the adjustments they made and where they were at. The 9 car got better to match whatever the 48 was doing on the racetrack.
And the other driver that we talked about that was a big gainer on that last exchange of stops, the man leading the race, Kyle Busch, was 7th when those green flag stops began just past lap 100. He was running 2nd after they were completed. His teammate Denny Hamlin on pit road for service now, Matt.
Somewhat of a struggle today for Denny Hamlin in the 11, a racetrack where he's never finished worse than 15th here. He said the car was wrecking loose, then tight. Significant adjustment for Hamlin, Marty.
Matt Clipboyer barely got into his pit stall. You can see this is a legal stop, though. He squealed into his pit stall, and the car turned sideways. It'll be a 4-tire change. Car way too tight for Boyer, and a wedge adjustment. Matt?
Carl Edwards had to check up for a split second to let the 11 of Hamlin exit his pit box. Meanwhile, the 20, after the chassis adjustment to tighten up, the 99's completed. The 20 of Joey slid into his box at a bad angle. Air pressure change for Joey, Marty.
Matt, Jimmy Johnson said he never got into rhythm on that run. The car way too tight, especially at the end of that run. It was a wedge adjustment, trying to loosen up this 48 car and gain some of that time back. Phil?
Marty Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the pits. He's just now leaving 4 tires. Just a bit of an air pressure adjustment. Needed to turn a little bit better in the center of the corner.
And meanwhile, our pole sitter, Juan Pablo Montoya, making his way down to his pit stall. He tried different lines. He tried backing up his corner, both tight and loose. Coles to a stop. He said, Brian Petty, we're going to give you a track bar adjustment going down this time to try to tighten you up to help you on exit. Solid stop so far on the right side. Looks good on the left, Ralph.
Well, here comes the guy that held the lead, the number 18 of Kyle Busch. Now remember, they were talking about brakes. Let's see if they remove some tape off the front of that car. They're going to go to work on the right side tires. Take care of that. So far, they're leaving the tape on, Bill.
Yeah, Ralph, Kasey Kahne wanted a little bit more of that track bar raised, just a little bit to free it up a little bit through the center of the corner. Kasey Kahne's going to see he did not beat the 18 out of the pits.
Four-time winner here at New Hampshire, Jeff Burton, making his way to his pit stall. The complaint from Burton: the car was just way too free. Look for a big adjustment there. Meanwhile, the 24, Jeff Gordon, he's making his way down the pits as well. While the 31 hits his box, an air pressure change on the left side. See if they put a wrench in the back window. Meanwhile, the 24 of Gordon, he was just trying to hold on. And he told Steve Letarte, I don't know what you're going to do. It's just dead loose on exit, but yet tight in the center. Steve Letarte's going to fix it with a track bar and wedge adjustment. Both stops complete.
And Matt, those the final 2 stops in this cycle under green. Martin Truex Jr., the first to hit pit road. He did so at lap 170. Burton and Gordon in at lap 178. Nothing's changed at the front. It continues to be Kyle Busch leading. You're watching Sprint Cup Racing on TNT, presented by Captain Morgan. Kyle Busch continues to lead as the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series rolls through New England. Race 17 in 2010. How would you like to win up to $1 million? You got a chance. All you have to do is log on to NASCAR.com/TNT Million. It's the TNT $1 Million Fan Challenge. Your picks have to be in for today's race, but you could win at Daytona or Chicago. Just go to the website, make your picks, and if you pick the top 10 finishers in correct order, you could win up to $1 million.
And Kyle, you're going to match that? Is that what you said under commercial?
Looking at our top 10 today.
That's what I said. Exactly.
I thought you said that.
A.J. Allmendinger may be throwing things off a bit. He's running 9th.
Robbie Gordon threw a lot off last week.
He did.
So that's, you know, the 2 car here, you see the 2 and the 48. We were just watching them race a little bit. A.J. right there behind them. This group is kind of like Wally said, 7 or 8 seconds behind. They've not made a lot of progress. They're doing a lot of racing with each other, but they're not moving forward a lot. And what I like about Kyle Busch leading a race right now is earlier in the race when we heard his audio, he's like, this car's junk. This car's just terrible. And he was running like 5th or 6th at the time.
He says that unless he's got an 8-second lead.
I love that. I love that passion that he has and that he brings. And, I mean, he's constantly wanting that thing to get better and better and better as we see A.J. go the inside of the 98 car.
What's with him is if one car passes him, it's junk.
Yeah, it's junk. But that's how competitive he is. It doesn't make any difference. And that's pretty impressive.
And now for Ford, Tony Stewart on older tires. Montoya taking advantage.
And Tony's just got to be just chewing on the steering wheel right now because he gets that little bit of a break where he gets the new tires and he can pass everybody and you feel like a hero. And then everybody 8 or 10 laps later gets theirs and they come right back past you and you just got to maintain. Last cycle, he was 2nd, if you remember. He came out, led the race, and then fell back to 2nd. Now he's all the way back. This cycle, he ends up in 4th.
Big movers this afternoon. Kyle Busch, Dale Earnhardt Jr. lead the charge. Both drivers inside the top 10. Tony Stewart has been good. A.J. Allmendinger the best of them all. And Burton, a 4-time winner here from 14th to 3rd.
And I'm going to say out of that pack right there, you know, as I look at that pack and we go back to qualifying and we go back to qualifying draw, really, A.J. was pretty good in practice. Burton was good in practice. Stewart was good in practice. Kyle Earnhardt wasn't that good in practice. So those guys made some changes and made some adjustments that got them in the race today. Phil?
Guys, Dale Earnhardt Jr. just reported to Lance McGrew, his crew chief. He was complaining before about not rotating enough through the center. He just said that was too much of a change. Now it's over-rotating in the center of the corner. They need to take some of that back out.
And that's the hard thing for a driver and a crew chief at a place like this.
Whoa.
Oh, man, that thing just wiggled and took off right there. The hard thing is, you look at over-rotating. As he turned in and ran down across that line, that thing starts to rotate. Now he's got to catch it and chase it up the racetrack. That's a perfect example of that. But you got a car and you think, man, I'm really good. Everything's working good. Should I make an adjustment? You got to make an adjustment to stay up with the racetrack. You got to make an adjustment to stay up with the other competitors because they're not sitting still.
You know how all good distance runners have their pace. They just go out and run. They know what they need to be doing to get where they're going. How about Kevin Harvick? Started outside the top 20 again today in the 24th position. Every week he paces himself, and here we are closing in on 100 laps to go, and he's knocking on the door of the top 10 again.
And that's a team that has the big picture in mind. When you can do that, when you can take something and not do anything, take nothing and make something out of it. They do it week in and week out, and they've done it this year better than any other team. There's been times I thought, my God, they're going to get lapped in the first 50 laps of the race. You see the final run day and they finish 4th.
But don't you think in order for them to win the championship, they're going to have to get from this point better if they're going to beat Denny Hamlin and the 48 car?
Yeah, I definitely think that. And you got to quote Jeff Gordon on that. We thought running in the top 5 was going to win us championships last year. Jimmy Johnson showed us winning wins you championships.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the deal. This is good this time of the year.
Right.
But when it comes to championship time, everybody has to elevate their game.
Jimmy Johnson's kind of rewrote the rule book in a few different areas. You know, there are a lot of themes and thought processes that were out there. Here's the battle for second. Jeff Burton.
I tell you,
He's
Jeff
been
Burton,
solid.
He gets a hold of this racetrack, and he is a tough guy to beat at this place. And he hasn't really been. He hasn't been that threat like he used to be. You come here, you have to beat Jeff Burton on this racetrack. But boy, he looks like he looks like it used to be when he was running for Roush and those guys. He was winning all these races up here.
And that's, you know, he's just patient. He just lets the racetrack come. He runs. He lets the car do the work. He doesn't overdrive the place. This is one of those places that just matches his style. And you see, once he clears somebody like this and can go back to running his own race and running the whole racetrack, he'll check out a little bit.
Burton made his career debut here in 1993. He's on the move today, but right now, Kyle Busch in command. His advantage 2.2 seconds over Burton. 100 laps complete in Loudon, New Hampshire, and we may have a change soon at the front of the field. Kyle Busch, the race leader.
Got 4 lappers binding up right in front of
And
you
here
guys.
comes Jeff Burton driving to the inside.
Yeah, Jeff.
Still there.
Jeff's not a little bit faster. He's been a lot faster than the 18 car in the last few laps. So now the 18's car is junk again.
Yeah,
he just got
he got passed. He's junk. Sorry.
Enjoy the view. Let's go.
Enjoy the view. That's
Rocky
nice to
Ryan,
hear.
the spotter, helping walk his driver through the traffic. And just in front of them, you see Greg Biffle. He's the last car on the lead lap, being scored in 21st.
I'm going to tell you, that's impressive with that 31 to come from, you know, where they start, 16th, 17th, and just march through the field little by little, stayed on their strategy, stayed on where they were at, and to come to the front against some of the guys that they've had to race. Because there's been some guys at the front that have been really fast today.
And now we get into the Haynes Comfort Zone. Time to go downstairs to our crew chief, Larry McReynolds.
Well, Adam, when you think about the inside of a race car, the cockpit, it's been documented with the heat from the brakes, the transmission from the exhaust system, that the inside temperature can get over 130 degrees. And one place that heat really gets hot is down here in the floorboard area where the pedals and where the driver's feet are. Now, for years and years, we would try all types of things. Insulated mats, we would even try plywood. But it almost got to the point where the more we put there, the more it would hold the heat and really make the driver uncomfortable because it was burning his feet. We finally decided that we're working on maybe the wrong thing. Now, this is a driver's shoe that a driver will wear. If you notice, it has a very thin sole. So what we had a company do is develop what we call a bootie. And it's basically a space-age material that the driver velcros to the bottom of the bootie, and it will definitely keep his feet nice and cool and comfortable. And you know, when the driver's feet's comfortable, the driver will be comfortable.
Yeah, and Larry, we have tried a lot of different things. We use styrofoam cups that you put inside because it's so uncomfortable when that floorboards get hot. We've all gotten blisters on our heels during races because it is like an oven in there.
And you know, we talk about where the driver's feet, where the driver's set. When you talk about a little bit of everything, Casey's
He's off the pace.
He's off the pace right here for whatever reason. Yeah.
Watch his feet here.
You got there, bud. I blew up.
Blowing up.
Here's a driver that had recorded back-to-back top fives and jumped 5 positions in the standings in the last 2 weeks. And tough day here this afternoon, Phil.
It sure is. Casey just reported that the motor was blowing up. He's one of only 2 Fords with the FR9 engine. The 6 car of David Reagan, the other car. So unfortunately, he's going to try to limp around, but I'm not sure it's going to last.
Yeah, and that's a tough break for these guys.
Good there right now.
But you know where you hear the spotter telling, there's nothing he can really do except run it till it breaks. You know what I mean? Because it's not. It almost sounds like it's in the valve train a little bit more.
Yeah, he's about 1,000 to 1,500 RPMs off of what normally you'd be running down into turn 3 right there.
And
you can hear the engine.
Yeah, the engine's just flat. It's almost like it's in the valve train. And this thing can run like this all day long. The question is, can he maintain the speed he needs to maintain and stay out there and at least get points, you know what I mean? But he's going to be here for the rest of the day.
He's about 3 seconds off the pace right now than what he was running.
He was running 3rd when the issue cropped up.
33.50, you just heard him say 33.50 is the speed they've got to maintain. And he's running a 33 flat, so he's within a half second. And I'm telling you, man, this is.
And there's 37 cars still running.
Yeah.
You know, so you're right. It's a long day to have to run like that, and you know he's right there at the cutoff.
Jimmie Johnson gets around Kane. The free fall just beginning for driver number 9. No problems up front for Jeff Burton.
I'm starting with a 29.
I think so. I don't. Yes, exactly. Yes. Welcome back to NASCAR on TNT at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Jeff Burton, the winningest driver all time here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, currently your leader. Burton has led 16 laps so far. Man, would he love to get a victory here today.
Well, I'm telling you, it's been a long dry spell for this 31 car, and but we saw in practice yesterday, Lindsey, that he definitely had a car on that was good on long green runs, and he's certainly showing it. We are down now to this could be a one-stop race.
You're right, and you mentioned a dry spell. Charlotte, fall of 2008, the last time Burton ended up in victory lane. Okay, Larry, let's go through the field, starting with the car in the 11th spot.
Phil, this is our points leader, Kevin Harvick, back in the 29 car, started in the 24th position.
He sure did, Larry. 402-point lead coming in. I talked to Gil Martin before the race. I said, do you go for wins? He said, I'd like to get through the next 2 weeks before we worry about going all out, going for wins, Ralph.
Phil, Ryan Newman is driving the same car he won Phoenix with earlier this year. They found some adjustments that seem to be getting the car a little bit better. They plan on only taking 2 tires every stop they have to make. After 100 laps to go, Marty, he's still trying to get this thing to turn better in the center.
Ralph, David Rudiman told me this morning that if they're going to get into the chase, they have to finish in the top 5. Currently, Rudiman in 13th, although they've gained 6 spots in the last 6 races. Gonna have to pedal to get there today. Very tight race car the last few runs for Rudiman. Phil?
Yeah, Marty, Casey Kane came in here 151 points out of 12. Unfortunately, with his motor problems, he's probably not going to get the finish that he deserves. Tough break for Casey Kane. Matt.
Phil, Joey Logano 17th in the championship standings, currently 15th on the racetrack. Joey told Greg Cipollelli the car is turning much better, rotating to the center of the corner. Now he just needs more help with drive off, but the changes that they've been making are going in the right direction.
Mark Martin moved to 8th on the all-time start list today by making his 775th career start. The car is not exactly where he would like it to go get another win here in New Hampshire. They've been working on it, making track bar adjustments, Matt.
Denny Hamlin runs in the 17th position. He says he has to just wait to get back in the throttle. It seems like forever. He says he has to put a ton of wheel in the car. It's been both tight and loose much of the day, Larry Mack.
Yeah, the car I'm watching, though, up inside the top 5, actually, Tony Stewart in that 14 car started back in the 25th position. Remember, he's off sequence on pit stops because on that first stop, they did not get that car full of fuel. He's going to have to make a stop here in about 10 to 12 laps. But the good news, he and everybody else is on a one-stop race should we stay green, Lindsay.
All right, well, it's interesting. It's going to be interesting, too, to see if Kasey Kahne will be able to get up to where he was leading for so long. We will have more updates coming up on the other side of the break. Right now, exciting racing at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Much more to come. Stick with us.
NASCAR on TNT, live at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Glad you're with us for race 17, presented by Captain Morgan. 225 laps complete here today. And in 6 days, you can follow the world's best drivers on NASCAR as we head to the world center of racing. Tune in as coverage begins at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time with Countdown to Green. And then it's the Coke Zero 400 at Daytona, powered by Coca-Cola. You can watch it Saturday night only on TNT. And yes, it will be our annual wide open coverage.
Which is a good thing.
Oh, outstanding. Race fans get what they enjoy the most. Jeff Burton leads this race by 2.9 seconds over second place Kyle Busch. In fact, Busch the only driver in the top 5 right now that has won a race in 2010, and his teammate in trouble. Denny Hamlin running 16th has not met expectations today, and he's about to go a lap down, Kyle.
Yeah, and we had Denny this morning down there, and I felt like, you know, he said, look, we made a lot of changes. We talked to the 18. We made a lot of changes. He was pretty confident. He was a lot more confident than what I would have been changing everything like that. But he's struggling right now. Wow.
A.J. Allmendinger's not struggled today. Driving to the inside and around Kurt Busch. This is the battle for 7th, and the exchange is complete.
And this track has stayed very consistent today. It's not slowed down. These guys are running basically the same times that they ran at the start of the race, which is unusual for a track to stay that, to stay the same. Usually this place gets really, really slippery.
Yeah, we see the 48 get around the 24, but you're exactly right. This is one of those places, some places we talk about when they rubber up, when the track gets rubber on it, they get really, really slick. This place seems to have been rubbering up. Whatever tire Goodyear has here obviously is a really good tire, and the consistency and the speeds have stayed.
Tony Stewart still needs that caution, Marty.
It's been an adventure, Adam, for Tony Stewart, and unfortunately, once again, he's running out of time to get that caution. They're about 6 to 7 laps from stopping, but A, you have to give Stewart credit. He's hung in there all day long, but B, you drivers can talk about it in a second, the tenacity to stick with it all day long, even though they know they're out of sequence, and how frustrating that must be, Matt.
Marty, right before the last stop, Jeff Gordon was telling Steve Letarte the car was wrecking loose. They found out why after the stop. They had a tire going down. Letarte told Gordon, keep that in mind considering the changes that we made. Jeff says the car is just bouncing on entry, hopping around, and it's just wicked loose on exit now. And now the sun is starting to come back out. We'd had a lot of cloud cover for about the last 25 or 30 laps.
Matt Kasey Kahne, a driver that we talked about a great deal in the early portion of this race, started on the outside of the front row, one of the 9 different leaders today, as you see Jeff Burton working through lap traffic. But he had an engine problem. Kahne dropped from the lead back to 17th. Larry has more on the issue for driver number 9.
Well, Adam, in yesterday's practice, even with the gear rule here at this little over a 1-mile racetrack, we were seeing max RPM at the end of the straightaway, 95, 96, 9,700 RPM. And just think about it. We've only had 1 caution. That's a lot of cycles and a lot of hanging RPM with these engines. Probably the reason the 9 is still able to run. More than likely, he possibly broke a valve spring right here. The other thing that could possibly happen is he may have broken a valve. Now, he can still keep running as long as that valve does not get down here and tag this piston. I think he possibly can nurse this thing home. Of course, they're trying to accumulate as many points as they possibly can. Remember, Phil Parsons reported the 6 and the 9, they have the new FR9 engine. So no matter what, I'm sure tomorrow, Doug Yates, Jack Roush, they can't wait to see exactly what has happened to this 9's engine.
That Toyota Torque car's got a little bit of everything. And they're a great illustration on what Kasey Kahne is dealing with. If he can't nurse at home, Larry, it would be the second consecutive race he's lost an engine here at New Hampshire. A DNF in September for Kane here as well.
If that valve gets down there and knocks the top out of that piston, we're going to see massive smoke. I will tell you that. But, you know, a car will run. A lot of times you'll break a valve spring will cock in there. It'll get sideways up in there, and the car will continue the run, and it keeps just enough tension. You just lose a cylinder. And these cars will run on 7 cylinders. These guys are just trying to get points right now, and you know, it's a miserable day when that happens to you.
Clint Boyer's managed his day nicely. He's in the top 10 just behind Kurt Busch. Burton leads. You're watching NASCAR on TNT. The engine finally gave way on Casey Kane, so we are under caution for the second time today at New Hampshire, and this the reason why.
Somebody said something about major smoke.
I don't know who called major smoke on that when the valve hits the piston. I don't know who called that. Oh, wait a minute. It was me. It was me.
This is the hardest part of the day when Wally and I have to admit that Kyle's right.
Yeah, but, you know, and this is what happened.
You're smoking big, bud. Get low. You're clear low. Just stay up there if you want.
And you hear the spotter talking to him and getting him out of the way for everybody, which is a big deal. But I mean, that engine could just as easily have run all day if the thing breaks and it gets in the right place and it kind of holds itself. But when it lets go, man, there's nothing you can do.
This the caution that Tony Stewart needed. Unfortunately, he had already made his pit stop under green while we were away. It happened at lap 235. We'll see how it affects him. Denny Hamlin got the free pass. He was the first car 1 lap down in 13th. To Marty Snyder.
Yeah, and just 4 laps later, here come the leaders under caution. Lap 239, Jimmy Johnson hits pit road, tighten the center, free off, and tough getting through traffic. It will be an air pressure adjustment only for Johnson, trying to get this car loosened up. Ralph?
Some minor adjustments for Kyle Busch. They decided to take 4 tires since they got over 60 laps on this last set. They're also going to clean the windshield for him, and we get ready to go with 4 tires here, Matt.
Jeff Burton says definitely the grip is much better, a little tight, but not bad at all. He can adjust that himself. Looking for his first wins in fall of 2008. Bill.
Matt, the 88 car was over-rotating. They undid the last change. Came in here in 7th from his 31st starting position.
Well, that's big for guys like Jimmy Johnson and some of these guys that had fast race cars but were 7 or 8 seconds behind Burton. That gap is just erased. So now these guys are all on even footing.
Burton able to hold serve off the pit lane. This caution ending a green flag stretch of 201 laps, the longest ever at New Hampshire. We've got more after a break. What's happening now in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by Sprint and Evo 4G, America's first 4G phone. Biggest mover today, A.J. Allmendinger, up 22 spots to 6th. And our fastest time of the day, pole sitter Juan Pablo Montoya, more than 128 miles per hour. For more NASCAR stats and live in-car audio, check out NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile and the new Evo, only from Sprint at sprint.com/speed. Under our second caution for an engine problem, Casey Kane, the reason, down to Marty Snyder.
Adam, some days when the engine lets go, it's a little tougher than others. I'm assuming since your car was so good, this is one of those days, isn't it, Casey?
Yeah, we had a fast Budweiser 4. The guys did a good job, and the car was good. It was probably going to battle the 31, the 18. It'll be more as the race goes on and get some cautions, but I felt like we had an opportunity to win a race, and it'd have been nice for Ford and Stanley Tools, Valvoline. There's a lot of people that put a lot into it, and get Budweiser back in victory lane, but not this week, maybe next week.
This will also be a big blow to those chase hopes as well, Adam.
No doubt about it, Marty. Kane entered 18th. He's now 22nd in the standings. In fact, at one time today, he was up to 16th in points. TNT tonight. It's a new season and a new reason to get more leverage. Don't miss an all-new leverage 2-hour event tonight, 9/8 Central, only on TNT. A number of drivers have taken the wave around, Wally.
I was just going to say, this brings a lot of guys back into play here. Because that caution really came out at the right time for a lot of these guys, especially Tony Stewart, because he's only got what we were talking 4 laps on his tires, so it puts him right back in the game.
Yeah, he's got to race himself back to the front, but at least it puts him back in the right cycle. He's been off on such a bad cycle that you really didn't know how he would run with these guys. We'll see now.
A good break for them and a good break for Hamlin, who gets his lap back. Truex, McMurray, Biffle, Scott Speed, Regan Smith, David Rudiman, the drivers who take advantage of the wave around rule. They will be on the lead lap.
As Kyle pointed out, their tires not quite as fresh as the leaders, a little bit lighter in the fuel load, but they will be good to go to the finish.
And you've got guys like Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon and Montoya, who were all running basically the same times as the 31 car. They just happen to be way back. They didn't have track position. So we may have a pretty good race going on right here now.
We get the green flag at lap 245. Jeff Burton, the race leader, elects the outside lane. Kyle Busch right beside him. Back underway at New Hampshire.
Jeff got a good start, and we've seen Kyle Busch and Jeff Burton on restarts at Charlotte. They got a little testy with each other, but Jeff got a really little. Jeff got a really good start right there and cleared him, and Kyle gave him room getting down the corner. That was a nice move.
Jimmy Johnson able to clear Gordon, but here comes Montoya to the inside of driver 24. Haven't heard much from Johnson since they had an issue on a green flag pit stop back around lap 100. He's as high as he has been since that time. Was in the back portion of the top 10 for most of the middle part of this race. He's now third.
Montoya slides up the racetrack.
Oh.
Gordon actually saw him coming and moved up the racetrack as well, but that could have been big.
Yeah, I think Juan was going to outbrave him getting in turn 3, and Jeff wasn't going to have any of it.
Mentioned Kevin Harvick had gone from 24th to 12th on that green flag run. He's now 8th. A victor here in September of 2006 was our point leader.
And these two guys, as these two guys are running side by side, these first 3 are really.
Oh, there he goes again.
Jeff's going to
get getting rough now.
It's going to get ugly right here.
And that's opened it up for A.J. Allmendinger, who slides by and will move into the top 5 for the first time.
And that's exactly what happens. It opens up the door for these guys behind you to catch up, but those guys in front of you are gone. And I don't know if you guys remember at Martinsville, what was it, last year, where Jeff said, why is this guy racing me this hard? Yeah. I mean, that was one of the big comments. That was some hard racing right there.
It's hard to find drivers on the track that don't have a history with one another. Talked a lot today in our countdown to green about retaliation. A number of folks left Sonoma a week ago disappointed. As of yet, nothing really panning out, although Montoya and Gordon did have a nice little battle a moment ago. And now Montoya slides up.
This should be good right here.
Oh!
Ah, that could be a cut left rear.
That was good.
Under there, inside the 2. 24 inside.
The splitter on these cars can be a big-time weapon when you talk about cutting down some of those tires.
Look. I mean, they're going right back at each other.
Okay. It's still inside the 24.
Boy, if he didn't cut the left rear on that,
was
Montoya's
close, man.
really, really lucky.
Yeah, because that puff of smoke was a big puff of smoke. Now you see Juan. Now Juan's just going to fall in line here. But remember, their tires are a little bit. They got 7 or 8 laps on them now. They're not as brave to stuff it down in there right now.
A.J. Allmendinger now in the top 5, but watch this prior to moving forward. In the 43 outside lane, he and Boyer get together.
Yeah, I think Boyer just gets a little loose right there. I don't think they got together as much as Boyer just got a little loose. Here's the 48 car around the 18 for second place, like we hadn't seen this a couple of times this year.
Jimmy Johnson started 10th, was about to grab the race lead prior to some green flag pit stops. We told you about his problems, but he's right back in the game now. Last time around, a second behind race leader Jeff Burton, Marty.
And Adam, I also think this proves how tough it is back in race traffic. That was the one comment Jimmy Johnson made. I still feel like we're fast. I just can't make any progress like back there where Clint Boyer is, Adam.
Yeah, you know, the problem is you get back in this pack and these guys are racing and you got to race really hard. And we see this so much with these cars on these type racetracks. You got to get everything you can get in those first 7 or 8 laps. If you don't get it in those first 7 or 8 laps and your tires are good, it's just incredibly hard to get around these places. Juan got beat up on his right side as he got into the 24, then got beat up on his left side a little bit later, and he struggled. He's dropped back 3 or 4 positions, and these guys have all run in on him.
Been a good day for Richard Childress Racing. Jeff Burton leading this race.
One back.
Kevin Harvick doing a nice job working through the field. The point leader up to 7th. And we've been watching Clint Boyer running in the back half of the top 10. Currently scored in 9th. Here are a couple of drivers that were part of the wave around a moment ago. We saw Mark Martin and Joey Logano going at it.
See the 88 here working on Newman. This is going to be a really good points day for him if he can maintain and run up here. He's the 13th right now in points. And a few weeks ago, I wasn't sure he even had a chance.
Only 12 points outside the top 12 is Dale Earnhardt Jr. And he's been able to make some gains at tracks that typically have not been good for him. And Wally, the next couple of weeks we go to Daytona, which is one of his best, and Chicago, where he's won. Newman, another driver, trying to find his way into the chase. Jeff Burton trying to find his way to victory lane. It's been a while. Charlotte a couple of years ago. 40 laps to go in Loudon, New Hampshire, and we watched the battle from 12th on back. Montoya 6th at the restart a moment ago, but he's been free-falling and he's been getting physical, Wally.
Yeah, he's pretty much bounced off of everybody that's even come up to him. I'm really surprised nobody's turned him yet, but he's got a lot of damage on the front of his car. You see, this was from earlier, and I think this really messed up his splitter here, Kyle, because there's some damage on his right front. And if you look at the splitter now, which you were pointing out earlier, it's way up in the air on one side.
It's way up on the right side out here next to the wall. Right there, you see how bad his foot, and it looks like when he got into the 33, it just jacked it up on the rear tire. Matt?
KP, they're hoping for a caution with so few cars in the lead lap. They'd like to get a new set of tires on there and fix that wicked loose, and also now adjust the cosmetic damage that they've got to that front splitter, because aerodynamically that car is just awful.
Yeah, there's no doubt that's hurting it. There's no doubt that's hurting the car. At the same time, he was racing the 24 car. He and the 24 got together. 2 cars got by him. Then he and the 33 are racing. They get together, and 3 more cars get by him. So, I mean, he's losing lots of ground right here for a car that was as fast as he was. And he's got this pack backed up.
Yeah, he's got everybody stacked up. He's got 15 cars behind him that he's holding up right now.
Tony Stewart a little off sequence as far as pit cycle was concerned because of a fueling issue on their first stop of the day.
But Tony is coming, because we saw just a minute ago the 5 car and the 17 car and the 47 right on the 42. Tony has driven around those guys and driven his way up to the 42 now, and Tony's not going to have much patience for him right here. I can tell you, not at this point in time, because now Tony's back in the race.
What's he saying, Marty?
Well, Adam, they've only gained 2 spots since the restart, but you're right, KP, they are coming, because what Tony hopes for is a long green flag run here. Yesterday in practice, the longer this 14 car ran, the better they got. And compared to the rest of the field, they're better than the rest of the cars in a long green flag run. So for Stewart, for once today, he's hoping now for no caution now until the end of the race.
Stewart right now in the 12th position.
See, Tony has come through those 3 or 4 guys. He wasn't even in the photo a minute ago, in the picture a minute ago. He's come through those 3 or 4 guys, and within a lap has stretched that much on. That shows how good his car is, or how good his car is driving. Those other guys can get to the 42, but their cars are just bad enough that he just holds that pack up.
The thing is, he's going to have to make 18 seconds up on the leader. I mean, I'm not sure you'd run another 15-point laps, then get a caution and get some of that erased.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, it's going to take a caution to make up that kind of ground on this crowd. And the thing is, it's not that this crowd. You see these guys bouncing off each other back here in the 17 and the 47. These guys at the front, nobody's run them down all day long. If we look at the 31, if we look at the 18. If we look at these guys that are up front, really there's only been a few times that these guys in these positions have changed up here. So it's not that these guys are going to run these guys down. They've got to get clear and be able to run their race to get away from this pack.
But even, like I said, you only have 34 laps to go.
Yeah.
These guys need some help with the caution and erase that gap. There's no way they're going to make up that much time because the leader's smoking around here at 30.2, and these guys are running 30.5. Not going to happen.
Dale Earnhardt Jr., we've documented the positive run he's had today. 9th is where he has scored, right behind Newman in 8th. Both drivers who sit right outside the top 12 in points.
As of now, Junior 13th in the standings, 4 points off of 12th. Edwards currently holding down that final chase position. Newman right behind him. Jeff Burton leads. Jimmy Johnson closing in at New Hampshire. Jeff Burton continues to lead the Lenox Industrial Tools 301 in Loudon, New Hampshire. Driver 31 has company, though. Here comes Jimmy Johnson. And now it's time to get with Larry McReynolds to find out his rankings of today's fastest pit crew. Larry?
Well, Adam, a lot can happen in 26 laps here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, but I'm looking at that 31 car, Jeff Burton, Todd Berry. They started back in the 17th position. They've made the right adjustments all day long. They've really been mistake-free on pit road. That's my pick. I'm going to go back there to the 18 car. Dave Rogers and Kyle Busch started in the 22nd position. Dave Rogers on that first caution at lap 36 went with 2 tires, got the track position, a lot of adjustments on that car. And how about Mike Shiplett and A.J. Allmendinger, the 43 car, started 28. If this race can stay caution-free, A.J. may get his second top 5, his career top 5. The only other one he's ever had was in the 2009 Daytona 500.
It's been a long drought, but an impressive day for A.J. Allmendinger. And don't forget, fans, your vote counts each week. Be sure to text the car number to 2258 for the pit crew you think is the fastest and most valuable. The AT&T Fastest Pit Crew of the Year award brought to you by AT&T, the nation's fastest 3G network. We watch Burton and Johnson at the front, and this has been a nice little race for position. Newman and Earnhardt Jr. continuing to exchange blows. This for 8th. See Newman's hands working there into the corner.
Now, inside. Yeah, it's taken about 5 or 6 laps for Junior to get to this point where he can at least get next to Ryan, getting into the corner. But that outside line is just hard to beat when you're coming off the corner like here, because it's just that's where your car needs to be. And if you're on the low line, you just can't get on the gas.
Yeah, and while this is going on and these guys are racing, you see Boyer right there has snuck into the picture. We remember Boyer in the 42 car and him struggling, his struggle with Montoya back there, the breakthrough of that pack. But that's, you know, at the beginning of the race, these guys said that. I can get position on somebody, but really driving up off the corner on the low side is a tough way to go. And you see Junior get position right to the bumper with about half of his car, but he just can't close the deal up off the corner.
And this is a huge race in regard to the points, Wally, because if you look at Newman, Junior, and Boyer, they're 13th, 14th, and 15th in the standings right now.
Yeah, it really is. If they can bring this home, this is going to be a big help for them on trying to keep it in, you know, get into the top 12.
But it's like we talked earlier. You know, if you're racing against each other, trying to gain ground on each other, you don't gain anything. Here you are 13th, 14th, and 15th, and here you are racing on a racetrack. What? 8th, 7th, or 8th, 9th, and 10th. So you don't really gain anything. That's the tough part about Cup racing. It's hard to make up those points because these guys are so competitive week in and week out, and they run the same.
But the thing is, guys like Biffle and Kenseth and those guys had bad days, so all 3 of these guys are racing each other, yet they're moving up because there's a lot of guys in the top 10 that are having not so, you know, Edwards is back in 27th right now.
The race to the chase in full swing. More on Newman with Ralph.
You know, he's been tight in the center all day, Adam, and as you watch him fighting his way around on the outside of the racetrack, you can really see him fighting to get that car to turn right in the center. See how he starts to push up a little bit, and that's right where Junior starts to take advantage of it.
But you know the funny part, we saw it with Montoya, we saw it a little bit with Junior there getting in the corner. When you go in, this track has multiple radius. You go in and it's flat, and then you hit that bank. Oh,
trouble! Montoya goes around.
When you go in and hit that bank, it just kind of unloads the car. Let's see who ended up getting Montoya. Somebody had to have, because he had made a lot of people mad by that point in time.
Third caution of the day.
Either that or the left rear finally did go.
Yeah, it could have. That's a good point. That's a good point, because he'd already been into the left rear with the 24 car earlier. That's a hard hit right there. You see how the thing is all.
19 to go, and we see what happened. Racing with Reed Sorensen.
Oh, Sorensen just, you see the wheels cocked pretty hard to the right.
Wow, that's a hard hit right there, too.
Montoya ought to be happy about this.
Yeah, he's not going to be happy about this. He's not going to be happy about this because Montoya was a lead lap car in the race, and the 83 car of Reed Sorensen was down. and Reed just goes in, and the car, same thing that Montoya had done to the other ones, and we just talked about Junior. You go across that flat, the car kind of unloads itself a little bit. You have to chase it up the racetrack, and Montoya is so close, they're just into each other.
Good to see Montoya out of the car. As Kyle pointed out, it was a hard hit. Third caution of the day, the first one for an incident on track. We did have debris for our first caution. That one coming out at lap 36. Another one at lap 240 when Casey Kane littered all the oil down the back straightaway, losing his engine. This is 5 laps before we actually got the contact that brought out the caution.
Yeah, and they just come off and get together right there, you know, and you know, so obviously, when we finally see the wreck happening, these guys have been racing side by side for 4 or 5 laps. If this was 5 laps prior, and you know, this is when you're Montoya, and look, we've all been lap cars, and but when you get to this point, this is the worst. This is just aggravates, you know what, out of you, to be honest with you, because here's a lap car. Get out of my way and let me race these guys.
I'm going to go a little step further on this thing. To me, that looked like a payback.
Yeah, it could have been.
If you want to look at it again, if you want to roll it again, you look how that left front wheel turned hard to the right. That didn't look to me like he was saving a race car. That looked like he was wrecking a race car.
That could have been. That could have been.
Some guys are going to come down pit road. The first is the 48, Marty.
Pitting from second, Adam, and it was a very last-second call by Chad Canals for 2 tires. About last second as you can get, 2 only, Ralph.
They decided to go for right-side tires for Kyle Busch. He said, if you want to win this race, I need tires. Right size it is, Phil.
Ralph, Gil Martin said if we put 2 tires on, we're still going to be behind Jimmy Johnson and not be able to beat him. Let's put on 4 tires, raise your track bar because that car was too high, and they changed it to 2 tires at the last second, Matt.
Right side tires only for the 24. Jeff Gordon, he's already away. Our leader, he stayed out.
So Jeff Burton stays on the racetrack. Tough situation for them when it comes to calling strategy late in the race. We reset the running order with 15 to go when we return. At lap 287, Jeff Burton, the race leader, did not pit. All those behind him did. 15 on the lead lap. Here we go at New Hampshire.
Gotta imagine that 31 is going to be a sitting duck, Kyle, without taking tires. As Jimmy Johnson just easily passes him and is going to drive away. And these other guys got to clear the 31 if they're going to have a shot at the 48.
You know, but that's 15 laps to go that Jeff's out there on these tires. And the bad part is once you make that call, you're committed to that call for the rest of the race because you're not going to give up track position if there's a caution with 8 or 10 laps to go.
Let's hear from Montoya. Marty?
Out of the care center, okay, happy to report. What was that about? Do you have any idea?
No, you know, we got together with the 24 racing for position. He was running around my door and I got really loose. And we ended up tangled a little bit at the splitter rolled up and I was really tight. Just trying to stay on the lead lap. We got a caution and you know, it's a shame when somebody a lap down and an ex-team may come and do that to you, but not surprised.
Did he have anything against you, think? Was it payback?
That I'm aware
Trouble
now,
on the track, Marty.
I don't know. You know how racing is.
Jeff Burton and Kyle Busch went around. We get our 4th caution of the day.
And I didn't see it. But whenever you get in a situation where you got everybody else on fresh tires and you're out there just hanging on, we'll see what happens. But a lot of times, you know, it's hard not to get run over.
A look back at what happened from high above. They were racing for 3rd.
Yeah, 31 just got loose getting in, and he got into the 18. And again, you're trying to race these guys on older tires when they all have fresh tires. It's a tough situation to be in.
Kyle did a great job. Jeff did a great job. You could tell Jeff just got into him, and we saw this with the wreck with the, well, maybe not with the 83, but we've seen it a couple times. You see Jeff's got cocked to the right. He goes up. He hits the 18. 18 did a really good job of staying out of the wall. Jeff just stopped and let him gather it up. You know what I mean? It wasn't a bump and knocked you out of the way. It was absolutely just I got in the corner too hard.
He went from 3rd to 23rd just in somebody else's mistake. I mean, that just killed the 18's race.
Yeah, and the 31. And the 31, maybe he'll take tires now.
Come on, low.
You see that from
clear, one inside, caution's out.
You hear the spotter, you see it from the 88 car. You know, here's 8 or 10 cars that go by the 31 and the 18. So they go from 4th and 5th back to 24th and 25th, and that's an exaggeration. But I'm just saying that it absolutely kills your day.
And Wasn't it the 18 that got into the 31 at a restart in Charlotte just a little while back? I'm sure this has got absolutely nothing to do with it, but
both drivers pit. There aren't a huge number of drivers on the lead lap. There were 15 when the caution came out. So these two will have to restart outside the top 10 and have plenty of ground to make up in a short time to do it.
And you see the right front's kind of torn up right there on the 31. Did that 18 just take 2 tires on that stop after he made that spin?
I don't know.
I thought it was 4.
Yeah, I really.
You'd think he'd need 4.
Yeah,
you smoked all 4 of them when you go around like that.
The way he smoked them, but he kept moving. He did absolutely keep moving.
It was a 4-tire stop for Kyle Busch, and now we get to our Captain Clutch, presented by Captain Morgan.
You see Jeff waving right there.
Yeah, he's trying to.
Jimmy Johnson came to pit road under green. You see the problems on the left rear. When he came to pit road on this cycle, he was running second. 9/100ths of a second behind race leader Casey Kane. He dropped to 9th in the running order, but he rallied back, and on the last restart gets around Jeff Burton for the race lead. Today's Captain Clutch, Jimmy Johnson. Fans, please remember, drink responsibly. Captain's orders.
And just prior to that, you saw Jeff Burton drive up past the 18, stick his hand out, and wave to Kyle Busch, you know, just to let him know that that was his fault. He didn't do anything intentional there.
Yeah, and Kyle's not going to be happy about it. I mean, any more than Jeff was happy at
Charlotte.
Charlotte.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing from New Hampshire, presented by Captain Morgan on TNT, is brought to you by Frost Brewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. By Burger King, who reminds you to have it your way. By Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15%. Call Geico at 1-800-947-AUTO or visit us at geico.com. By NOS High Performance Energy Drink. Drink NOS. Fuel victory. And by Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series.
Under our 4th caution of the day in Loudon, New Hampshire. This one for a tangle up between 2 drivers that were inside the top 5. Jeff Burton, who had led nearly 90 laps today, and Kyle Busch. Both have been to pit road, and now that they have gotten their service, they will restart 14th and 15th. And a reminder, later tonight, right here on TNT, Leverage. A 2-hour event, 9/8 Central, only on TNT.
I know we've touched on this a couple of times during the race, but where's the 29 car right now?
I know. It's unbelievable. He restarts 4th.
Incredible.
The race leader, Jimmy Johnson, elects the inside lane. Kurt Busch will join him on the front row. More on the 29. Here's Phil Parsons.
Guys, I just jumped up and asked Gil Martin, did he call off the 4 tires because he felt like too many guys took 2? He said, no, I never had any intentions of changing 4. I was going to do 2 all the time, but I wanted other people to think I was going to get 4, I guess including me.
Phil referring to their service at lap 284 under caution. Kurt Busch, the other driver, or excuse me, Kevin Harvick and Jeff Gordon in the top 4, as well as Ryan Newman. The restart with 9 laps to go.
Jeff Gordon may have something to say about this race before the day's over with, though, the way he got that restart.
Jimmy Johnson outstanding in practice here yesterday.
Whoa!
Kurt Busch with contact, the bump and run, new leader. The Blue Deuce out in front.
7 to go.
And
that's what I'm talking about.
That is boys have at it racing right there. There is nothing wrong with driving down in the corner, getting a guy a little bit out of shape. That's a classic Darrell Waltrip, Dale Earnhardt, whoever you want to say move.
You just want to get gone right now, because you do not want the 48 back on your bumper at any time between now and the end of
bounced off the wall.
That was a pretty good hit off the wall right there that we saw. But you're exactly right. Once you make that bump and run, you put the bit in your mouth and you never look in the mirror again, man. There's no way you want to see that 48 coming back.
Kurt Busch had not led in this race today until he went around Johnson a moment ago. But he has led more laps in 2010 than any other driver.
And I'm going to tell you, Kurt in clean air gets up off turn 2 over there. He got that thing rotated in the middle of the corner and gained a car length or 2.
Talked about Ryan Newman trying to gain some ground on the points. He's up to 6th now.
They're not done wrecking back there yet.
Marcos Ambrose, Denny Hamlin, David Rudiman, and Kyle Busch a part of that mess. Remember, he and Jeff Burton got turned around a minute ago, started back around 15th and trying to work their way through traffic. Really to no avail. Last time around they were 13th and 15th in the running order.
You can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
That's a problem. You basically have a blocked racetrack in front of you. There's just nowhere to go. There's nowhere to pass.
You got 4 tires and everybody else has got 2 tires with multiple laps on them, but they're 3 and 4 wide in front of them.
5 laps to go this time by, now 4.
Jimmy Johnson is creeping up on that 2 car. If he can get there, he'll do it.
Denny Hamlin bumped David Rudiman in the corner. The 00 will fall back and lose a few positions.
Yeah, he did a really good job of keeping that thing out of the wall hard. He may have got up next to it and touched it.
Hamlin hasn't been a big part of the conversation today. Here's Busch. 3 laps to go, and he's trying to hang on, but Johnson reeling him in every lap.
And it's coming. Here it is. It's gonna happen.
Johnson has won 4 times this year, including a week ago. 2 victories in 2010 for Busch. Repay, a little contact in the corner.
Same place.
You just knew it was coming.
And look here. Look at the 14 right here in the mirror. Just hoping these guys do it.
2 laps to go. They're side by side at the stripe. Into 1. Jimmy Johnson the advantage.
But I tell you, Kurt's not giving an inch right here.
Well, and this is really hard right there because Jimmy couldn't make the pass and slide up in front of him. Now he clears him.
New race leader, Jimmy Johnson out front with a lap and a half to go. Those the top 3 cars.
Look at this 14 right here, just digging on the inside.
Tony Stewart, who started deep in the field, he's making a late race rally, battling Kurt Busch for 2nd. White flag has gone out. Final lap at New Hampshire.
Ooh, Tony got a little loose. Look at him wash up the racetrack into the 22 right there.
Smoke off of turn 2, able to slide in front of Kurt Busch. He now has the runner-up spot. Jimmy Johnson pulling away. For the 52nd time in his career, he's going to try and claim the checkers, and he's going to do it back-to-back. A win last week at Sonoma. Today, he does it in the Granite State. Johnson wins.
Wow. That's a good last 8 or 10 laps of the race, man.
We see Rudiman and Denny Hamlin going after each other.
Yeah, down here in turns 1 and 2.
Jimmy Johnson able to get his 5th win of the year, tying Denny Hamlin for the most on the campaign. And for all those naysayers who wondered what was wrong with Johnson, I think driver 48 is back.
I never listened to what those people said anyway.
It's because you're a driver, right?
Yeah. Yeah, back from what, 7th place in points? Back from
the big slump.
That big slump he had. Yeah, that's impressive though. These guys were fast from the time they unloaded. And you know what? This is a shot across the bow when you look at it, because this is where the chase starts. And if these guys come here now and run like they run right now, you got to take that into account when you come back saying, hey, they won here the first race, they can win here when we start to chase.
Yeah, all these other guys have got to step the steel up if they're going to beat this 48 team in the chase.
A number of storylines to sort through. We'll join the celebration with Jimmy Johnson when we come back. You're watching NASCAR on TNT. Sprint Cup Series Racing presented by Captain Morgan back in Loudon, New Hampshire. We welcome you into our post-race coverage. Jimmy Johnson in victory lane for the 2nd straight week, and plenty to talk about down the stretch.
Yeah, here you see the 2 car come down in the 3, and it just gets into the left rear of Jimmy Johnson, just enough to get him out of shape and take the position. But Kurt couldn't stay out front far enough for the 48 because the payback was definitely coming.
Yeah, and here's exactly the same move in exactly the same corner. Jimmy runs in, gets on his rear bumper, sends him up the racetrack, and then drives under him. And that's good racing. We see that Saturday nights all over the country on all types of racing. That's not knocking somebody out of the way. That's moving somebody out of the way.
3rd win at New Hampshire, and the celebration is on, Marty.
Yes, this is a very happy victory lane and a hard-fought victory for Jimmie Johnson today, and spectacular final few laps there with his buddy Kurt Busch, who he's had a few run-ins with before. Jimmy, tell me about those final few laps there, and how hard were you driving after Kurt rooted you out of the way there?
The beer is good, especially in victory lane. Not as good as this Gatorade, but first and foremost, I just have to thank Lowe's and all their employee owners, everybody at Chevrolet Hendrick Motorsports for giving me a great race car. We had a great car. The 31 kind of, in one of those situations where if he pits, we stay out. He didn't pit, so we came in, and the whole field came with us. And so that, sorry for him there. And then we got going on that restart. Kurt knocked me out of the way, and I thought, I don't care if I win this race or not. I don't care if I finish this damn thing. I am running into him and getting back by one way or another. I'm not good at doing that stuff. Usually I crash myself in the process. So I tried once and moved him. I'm like, okay, now I got to hit him harder. And the second time I moved him out of the way and got by him, was able to get going. So just a great effort. This team, we had one bad stop. I think something hung up on the left rear hub early in the race. And we fought back from that and had great stops and a great car after that and got back up to the front.
Was that boys have at it at its best, Jimmy?
Yeah, you're going to have that on the short tracks. And we had so much green flag running. I knew at some point we'd get bunched up and it'd all break loose, and it certainly did. So I want to say hi to my wife at home. Hopefully you didn't go into labor with this victory. That
would be good, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Wait for me. I want to be able to be a part of this. So.
How big was perseverance for your race team today? Because it could have been easy to get frustrated when you were back in the pack and not making progress.
Yeah, and especially, there's so little grip here. Track position is very important because of clean air. You need the entire racetrack to make a good lap time, and you get mired in traffic, and it just gets, it gets really frustrating. So, ooh, that's cold.
And that's from Chad Canal. So another 10 bonus points for this race team. A happy victory lane down here, Phil.
Kurt Busch, is it just old-fashioned short track racing?
Yeah, that's what it turned into at the end. We were a bit strung out during the race, so many green flag laps, but at the end, our car was very strong on the short run, and we knew we needed tires to come in and battle these guys. And so, great call on the Miller Lite Dodge to do our best with what we had. We didn't have a winning car, but we almost put it in position to get a win. And, battling with Jimmy, we did what we could to get the lead, and I just was counting the laps going, man, there's not enough laps. So we battled as best we could.
Was it getting a little bit bigger in your mirror than you would like to have him gotten?
Yeah, it would have been great to hold those guys off. They win quite often. They have very fast cars. Sometimes you just do the best with what you got, and we did great with our Penske Dodge today.
Great, strong top 3 finish, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Kurt Busch.
Well, we're down here with Jeff Burton. Jeff, first of all, let's talk about the incident with you and Kyle Busch. What happened there?
Well, Kyle didn't have anything to do with that. That was all me. He got loose off of 2, and I drove underneath him, and I just underestimated the grip I would have getting into 3, and the back came around, and I corrected it, and he was there. So it was more of an incident with me, and he paid the price for it. He didn't do anything wrong.
Seems like prior to that, though, you had a pretty darn good car going for most of the day. Were you fairly happy up to that point?
Yeah, we had a great car. Obviously, that last call was a tough call. It's hard to know what to do. That was the first time we had taken off on old tires, and I didn't really know what to expect. And it's easy to sit back now and say, well, you should have changed tires, but all we had to do is drag 2 other cars with us, and we win the race, and nobody came. So sometimes leading a race is a difficult position to be in, but I'm real proud of everybody. Everybody's working hard, and it's disappointing, but I'm not discouraged about what we got going on here.
All right, Jeff, thank you. Matt?
What a run for Tony Stewart, the 14 team today. Off sequence early on, fast race car. What a drive to get it back up, and especially got excited near the end.
Yeah, my fault sliding into Kurt. That cost him second, but we just both sailed it off in there. Neither one of us were going to let the other one have an advantage of going into 1 there on the last lap. It was my fault. It's my responsibility as the guy on the inside to control my car, and I slid up into him. So I definitely owe him one on that one. So, but I'm proud. I'm proud of these guys. This old Spice Office Depot team. We started in the back, worked our way to the front, and on the first stop didn't get fuel in it, so we had to keep short pitting on the long greens there. And but we gained some track position, and we'd lose that the guys on fresh tires would run us down and get by us. But we got caught out there toward the end and had to take the wave around, and then you start behind all the lap cars and everything. So it was a long fight there at the end, but we got to the top 2.
Impressive finish for Tony Stewart, second here at the Magic Mile.
Kyle, can you tell me what happened between you and Jeff Burton?
Y'all saw it. I got wrecked, but just a product of good, hard racing there at the end of the race. A guy on no tires trying to make it all what he's got, and we screwed up. We didn't have the right front underneath the car there at the end, and I washed up the track. And in the previous corner, Kurt got by me, and then went down into turn 3, and Burton got loose underneath me. We wrecked. So that's all there is to it.
So Kyle Busch, disappointed, finishing back in the 11th position. Burton right behind him in 12th. We look at final results this afternoon. Tony Stewart, his third top 5 finish in the last 4 races. Jeff Gordon and Kevin Harvick solid today as well.
Yeah. And you know, Ryan Newman, Clint Boyer, Dale Earnhardt Jr., AJ, those guys had solid runs. They were top 10 cars almost all day long. They could be 5th, they could be 10th, but they were top 10 cars.
Dale Jr.'s been on quite a roll. Marcos Ambrose, at a track where he's not typically been good, did a very nice job managing things today to finish 13th. See Matt Kenseth, middle of the pack.
Yeah, Matt, and we saw Matt numerous times almost get lapped in the race. Carl Edwards back in 25th. Brad, we saw him a couple of times. Paul Menard.
How about those drivers starting on the front row? Montoya, the crash, finishes 34th. The engine for Casey Kane, he comes home 36 today. And these drivers did not finish the race here this afternoon. More post-race coverage. Jeff Gordon with our Matt Yoakum.
Jeff Gordon brings a 24-car home top 5. At times today, it seemed like we're running at Martinsville, not New Hampshire. Got rough.
Well, that's just all the type of racing you're seeing these days. You know, double file restarts, you know, get really hairy and wild and crazy. And it was a little bit eventful with us in the 42 there, but we recovered. Again, you know, we got to work on the restarts a little bit. We had a really strong car early in the race, but lost that a little bit. So, you know, we'll go back and do our notes and try to figure out how we can be better when we come back here for the chase. But all in all, pretty good day for the DuPont Chevrolet.
This track tough to get a handle on today. We had sun and we had cloud cover. It seemed like a lot of guys were on that fine line, and then they would lose the handle for a run.
You know, the first half of the race, I thought we were one of the best cars. I mean, we started 16th and drove all the way up, you know, into the top 5. I was real happy with it. But somewhere along the way, you know, I don't know if it was the cloud cover track conditions, how it changed. We just really lost the handling on it. I just could never get the car to turn the middle quite like it had earlier. And from that point on, we were just kind of out there. We weren't charging and moving forward and able to battle guys like we were earlier in the race.
Jeff Gordon, another top 5 here at New Hampshire.
Kevin Harvick, you battled from the 24th starting position. You finally got yourself in position towards the end, and you certainly had a good view of what went on at the end.
Yeah, our Shell Pennzoil Chevrolet was good, and we just got it. We kept freeing it up all day, and we finally got a little bit too free on 2 tires. We hadn't had 2 tires on all day. It'd been 4 all day. Had a little beating and banging up there. I thought we were in the right spot to capitalize on that, but I just couldn't put the throttle down. But solid day. I feel like we got a better spot to start when we come back, and we'll be a little bit better qualifying.
I was talking to Gil before the race, and I said, is this a situation where with as big a point lead as you have, you feel like you're safe in the chase and you go for wins? He said, well, yes, but we can't be crazy. We said, I'd like to get through these next 2 weeks, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you definitely want to be solid for the next few weeks, and then you know, you can start doing some things that you normally wouldn't do, trying things that you normally wouldn't try. And even right now, we can be a little bit more aggressive because you do have a little bit of a cushion, but you know, we want to win a couple races or a race or 2 before the chase starts, and hopefully hit our winning streaks in the last 10. That's when it all counts.
All right, good job, man.
Thank you.
Another top 5 for Kevin Harvick, but he actually lost ground in regard to points. His lead now only 105 over Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, 105 points. If he keeps running like he's running, he's not going to lose that point lead.
Here's where it gets interesting. Dale Jr. doing a great job, only 3 points out of the top 12. And what about 16 points separating 12 from 15th?
And this is the exciting time. We said it before when we started the Turner races, the TNT races, this is the grind. These 6 or 7 races to get to the next level, to get to the chase. It's the grind of the year, and these guys are grinding it out a few points at a time.
And we go to Daytona next week,
yeah,
where, as we all know,
anything can happen there.
Wild card. It's kind of like Infineon, man. You never know going into that last lap what's going to happen.
Jimmy Johnson, a winner 2 weeks in a row. It's the 8th time in his career he has gone back-to-back. Next Saturday, NASCAR on TNT heads to Daytona. Tune in as coverage begins at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time with Countdown to Green. And then it's the Coke Zero 400 at Daytona, powered by Coca-Cola. That's next Saturday on TNT. Tonight on TNT, catch a 2-hour special of Leverage starting at 9 p.m. Eastern and Pacific. Head to NASCAR.com now for the NASCAR on TNT post-race show. Interviews, analysis, and more. Live now on NASCAR.com. Jimmy Johnson does it again. He wins this afternoon in New Hampshire. Congratulations to him. And a special thanks to Wally Dallenbach, Kyle Petty, and our entire NASCAR on TNT crew. I'm Adam Alexander saying so long and good day from New England.